Football, with such strong skills, even nightclubs can produce football kings. Greetings, fellow multiversal adventurers. It's an honor to have you back in the saga that has us all hooked. Official channel statement: this story is 100% epic fiction, so please don't attempt real magic. The results aren't guaranteed and insurance won't cover it. The rights to this masterpiece belong entirely to its brilliant original author. We are just a barge sharing it with you. Do you want to keep being part of this amazing community? Join our ninja army of subscribers on YouTube and give this content a like. And for true fans, our Patreon has exclusive ninjutsu waiting for you. Chapter 126. Su Feng's plan was foiled. While Zhanjun and He Wei were still discussing the issue of Paderborn's defense, the court was once again turbulent. The Paderborn goalkeeper takes the goal kick, but this time, facing Dortmund's high pressure, he did not choose to pass the ball directly to Su Feng's point, but missed it slightly. By the time Su Feng ran towards the ball landing position, two Dortmund players were already standing nearby waiting to compete for the top spot. Bang! Sure enough, before Su Feng could get into position, a Dortmund player grabbed a bit of the ball and pushed the football towards the Paderborn penalty area. The football flew high and drew an arc in the air. The players of Dortmund and Paderborn raised their heads together, waiting for the football to fall. "I'm coming," Jing Dongen, who was near the landing point, shouted to his teammates. Then rushed over at high speed, grabbed the second penalty ball again, and headed the ball towards his own wing. The gap between the players on both sides may be reflected here regarding the judgment of football placement. Gundogan, a star player, is much better than Paderborn and other Bundesliga players. Soon, the football came to the wing and was firmly controlled by Royce. The stadium was once again filled with cheers from Dortmund fans, who were willing to cheer for every attack the team made. Bang! After getting rid of Paderborn's defender, Royce adjusted his angle and made a pass, sending the football to Paderborn's goal. Center back Antoine, who was in front of the goal, showed a hint of nervousness on his face before he reacted and prepared to defend Aubameyang personally, but his confrontation ability is simply not enough in front of Aubameyang. After stretching his body, Aubameyang jumped up and directly performed an upside-down golden hook. Bang! A heavy voice sounded, and the football changed direction and headed directly towards Paderborn's goal. The Paderborn goalkeeper did not react and naturally did not make a perfect save. Hey, the football hit the net again. Dortmund received good news at the beginning of the second half and once again scored Paderborn's goal. Currently, we are leading 3-1, with the cheers of Dortmund fans. Aubameyang followed his teammates and sprinted to the corner kick area to celebrate. "Sorry, I didn't keep an eye on him," Antoine apologized to his teammates with a frustrated look on his face. Although it was indeed his problem this time, there was no conflict between the Paderborn players. The angry Paderborn goalkeeper comforted Antoine for a few words and stopped talking. The honor on the field once again belonged to the Dortmund players, and the Paderborn players became their background. Su Feng glanced at the celebrating Dortmund players and the disappointed Paderborn players, feeling even more dissatisfied. "Vidra, after I serve the ball, don't pass it back to the defender. Directly cooperate with the wing to advance the ball." Walking towards Vidra in the middle, Su Feng patted him on the shoulder. "Then look at my position and directly find an opportunity to pass the ball to me." These words surprised Vidra. After all, Dortmund has the upper hand at this time, and the coach's instructions are also to defend and counterattack. If such a risky and fast attack succeeds, it will be fine, but if a mistake occurs, the gap between the players will be pushed forward by Dortmund players to the point of despair. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. But Vidra looked into Su Feng's eyes and felt the fiery gaze in his eyes, which was a belief that longed for victory. "Okay, I'll act according to the opportunity." Vidra thought for a while and finally agreed to Su Feng's plan. Doesn't he have the same desire to win as Su Feng? Soon, the game started again. Su Feng stood in the center circle with firm eyes, ready to serve the ball for Paderborn. After seeing Vidra give himself an okay, he nodded without hesitation and passed the ball back to him. After receiving the ball, Vidra drove the ball directly towards Dortmund's front court and soon, Dortmund's midfielder rushed towards him, trying to disrupt his advance. However, Vidra did not continue to hold the ball when he saw this, and promptly split the ball to the side and passed it to Plikovic. Bang bang bang. Then, facing Dortmund's pressing, Paderborn players passed the ball continuously and cooperated with each other, causing chaos in Dortmund's midfield. Obviously, Paderborn's sudden counterattack was not expected by the Dortmund players, which allowed Paderborn to seize the opportunity on the sidelines. In the Paderborn coaching area, seeing the rapid attack of Paderborn players, Gerald could not help but show a trace of anger on his face. "What is this for? who allowed them to initiate the organization's offense without authorization. Gerald spread his hands and yelled at the players on the court in confusion. In this way, once a mistake is made, how can the backcourt defend? Obviously, J. when Lard met Dortmund in the German Cup in Paderborn, he gave up the cup competition. He has a clear understanding of Paderborn's strength, and after Hunemeier's injury, he now just wants this game without any main players being injured. Fortunately, it will not affect the subsequent Bundesliga league. However, the rapid attack of Paderborn players on the field at this time could easily cause Feng, who is the last to receive the ball, to encounter Dortmund's high-intensity defense, resulting in a physical collision on the field. Soon, Pirlikovic came to the wing area and met Dortmund's attack. He could not continue to advance and had to pass the ball to Vidra, but the situation on Vidra's side was similar. A defensive midfielder stared at him eagerly, guarding against his breakthrough. However, Vidra is already very satisfied with his position. He took off without hesitation and sent a long pass straight to Feng at the top of the Dortmund penalty area. A confident smile filled Feng's mouth. After stopping Vidra's pass with his chest, he quickly turned around and headed towards the Dortmund penalty area. Stop him! Dortmund midfielder Weigl saw this and gave instructions to Dortmund centre-back without hesitation. Papastathopoulos, who was closest to Feng, looked straight at Feng with fierce eyes. At first, Feng wanted to rely on his explosive power to get rid of Papastathopoulos, but Papastathopoulos's speed was not nearly as fast as Feng's, and was actually a few points faster. This is Dortmund's terrifying overall strength. In less than a few seconds, Papastathopoulos had already rushed out from the side, blocking Feng's advance. There was no other way. Feng could only get past a defender in front of him. He moved the ball to the left with his right foot. After controlling the football with the heel of his left foot, he picked it up again and used a cool rainbow pass to throw the football to the right. At the same time, Feng sprinted to the right, trying to pass the ball. His elegant style of play has honestly made a fool of Papastathopoulos, but when has this central defender, who has been playing in the 5 major leagues for a long time, ever suffered such humiliation? Driven by extreme anger, Papastathopoulos became a little excited. He turned around, rushed forward and bumped into Feng's body. Chapter 127. Gerald's worries. Feng's end. Bang! A dull crash sounded. Feng suddenly felt a huge force coming from his body, making him lose his center of gravity, and then his body fell to the ground uncontrollably. Beep! The referee on duty not far away blew the foul whistle without hesitation and pointed to the 12 yards in front of Dortmund's goal. Then he ran up to Papastathopoulos and showed him a red card, but Papastathopoulos, who was standing next to Feng, did not choose to reach out and pull up Feng, who was lying on the ground instead. He spread his hands towards the referee to express his dissatisfaction with the referee's penalty, but the referee ignored him and turned around to signal the Paderborn team doctor on the sidelines to come in and check the player's injury. Seeing this, Papastathopoulos snorted disdainfully and looked at Feng with provocative eyes. He didn't feel sorry for the foul he just committed. This scene directly angered the other Paderborn players on the field. Originally, Hunemeier was injured on defense, which made other players a little dissatisfied. Now they actually fouled Feng directly. What's Feng's status among Paderborn players now? He is a completely spiritual leader. How could he allow other people to provoke him? Damn it, if you don't know how to play football, get off the field. Vidra, who was closest to Feng, rushed towards Papastathopoulos, pushed him hard, and vented himself of anger. And Papastathopoulos also had a bad temper. He actually pushed Vidra again even though he had obviously committed a foul in an instant. Other players from both sides rushed up. Because of a foul, the long-standing conflict between the Paderborn players broke out on Dortmund's side. Other players, maybe more rational, and quickly stood in the middle to block Paderborn's players from touching Papastathopoulos. Seeing that the momentum was not right, the referee quickly began to control the situation on the court, but the young and energetic Vidra apparently forgot about the competition in order to help Feng vent his anger. Beep! In desperation, the referee blew the whistle again and issued a topaz card to Vidra. Referee, Vidra was just a little impulsive just now, and it must have been Dortmund's first move. Shouldn't this yellow card be given to them? Seeing that Vidra also received a yellow card, Plikovic pulled the referee, stopped and seemed to want to reason with him, but the referee ignored him at all, shook his head alone, glared at him, and gave him a warning. Prejudice, don't worry about this for now, go and see if Feng is injured. Vidra, who had regained consciousness, pulled Prejudice angrily, not wanting him to continue talking to the referee. Struggled and received a yellow card. Hearing these words, Pirlikovic glared at the referee dissatisfied, then nodded. turned around and went to visit Su Feng with Vidra. "Can you still stand up?" "Feng." Vidra walked to Su Feng and squatted down. "Dortmund really can't afford it. It's okay. Just a little skin on the knee." Su Feng gritted his teeth, barely giving Vidra a bleak smile. When he first acquired the star skill of Rainbow Extraordinaire, he thought that this scene might happen today. After all, the football field is a dangerous place. Sometimes if you are not careful, you will encounter a flagrant foul from the opposing defensive player. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. It turned out that all the opponent's explosive tackles were resolved by Su Feng. After today's collision, Su Feng could only feel that Dortmund's Papastathopoulos' football ethics was a bit low. Fortunately, the collision just now made Su Feng feel a burning pain in his back, and he was slightly dazed. "Now that I have calmed down for a while, there are no major problems except that my knee is scratched and bleeding, but if we were too unlucky that time and something serious went wrong, we might really have to say goodbye to this season. This is the cruel sport of football. Many players will face injuries when other players face this situation. They will face a difficult choice. Is it to protect your own safety first, or is the team's interest first? Everyone's choice is different. Some people will all consider their careers, maintain a long career, and continue to ride on the green court, but some people will consider the team and stand up regardless of their own safety to save the team's decline." Hunemir and Su Feng are obviously the latter, but who is right and who is wrong? There is no unified standard at all. Just when the Paderborn team was helping Su Feng deal with his wounds on the sidelines, the Paderborn coaching bench, fake, Gerald looked at Papastathopoulos, who had just collided with Su Feng, with gloomy eyes, his tone mixed with anger. "A flagrant foul if you can't defend? Aren't you afraid of injuring the opponent with such a dangerous move?" These few curse words obviously couldn't fully vent Gerald's anger. He greeted Papa continuously. Stathopoulos' family also brought along Dortmund's head coach Tuchel. After he was out of breath from scolding, Gerald suddenly gave orders to Bradrick, "Go and notify Kosa and change the wind for me. We must not let him be reimbursed for the season due to injury." Bradrick on the side saw Gerald's state and was so frightened that he quickly nodded and went to deal with it. He has been with Gerald for 3 years, and he has never seen Gerald so angry. Soon, the fourth official on the sidelines raised the substitution card. Paderborn player number 23 Su Feng came off the field, and number 30 Kosa came on as a substitute, although he had a valuable opportunity to come on as a substitute. Kosa was not very happy because he knew that there was a high probability that he would lose this game, and his appearance was just a temporary replacement for Su Feng. Once Su Feng is not injured and misses the game, and can still play stably in the future, he will still be a water dispenser keeper. "Feng, get off the field quickly." Assistant coach Bradrick and Kosa stood on the sidelines, anxiously waiting for Su Feng to come over and perform the substitution handover ceremony. But when he saw Su Feng standing up from the ground, he was actually moving his injured leg, as if he was going to take a penalty kick later. This made Brad a little nervous, to be honest. Su Feng never thought that he would be replaced during this game. After he recovered from the ground and stood up, he was still actively moving his tibia, preparing to take the penalty, but now the head coach Gerald actually chose to replace himself at this time. Chapter 128. Penalty kick. Get a goal back. Why did Mr. Gerald choose to replace me at this time? Su Feng shouted at Bradrick with a face full of reluctance, while not forgetting to move his legs in front of him. "I don't have a big problem. I can still continue playing." Bradrick frowned and was stunned for a moment. He knew that Su Feng had a heart that refused to admit defeat and would do his best to stay on the court and help the team win, but this German Cup game was not on the team's plan at all. Perhaps the presence of Su Feng can really help Paderborn regain its declining momentum and close the score with Dortmund, but so what? What Paderborn needs now is a stable chance to advance to the Bundesliga this season, not this cup. Thinking of this, Bradrick spoke up again. "Now is not the time for you to get upset. Obey the coach's instructions first." Now, Gerald's substitution instructions have been issued and it is impossible to take them back. Even if Su Feng continues to stay on the court at this time, he will be driven away by the referee. At the moment, it seems that the only way to go is to obey Gerald's arrangements. "Alice," Su Feng sighed and glanced back at Dortmund's goal, his eyes filled with a desire to score. But even if he is still looking forward to this game, he can only say that he is waiting for the next opportunity. Then, Su Feng lowered his head reluctantly, took off the captain's armband from his arm, handed it to Vidra's hand, and then walked slowly towards the sidelines. "Su Feng. Su Feng. Su Feng. Su Feng. Su Feng. Su Feng." As Su Feng walked off the green field, the Westfalen Stadium suddenly burst into fierce applause. Amid the applause, Paderborn fans also chanted Su Feng's name. This is undoubtedly the greatest respect for Su Feng from both Dortmund fans and Paderborn fans courtside. Seeing Su Feng's fate, Bradrick breathed a sigh of relief. He was secretly happy, but fortunately Su Feng didn't get emotional at this time and caused some unnecessary conflicts soon. After Kosa high-fived Su Feng, who was coming off the field, he quickly ran into the penalty area and waited for Pacific to take the penalty kick. Knowing the ball live broadcast room, countless fans almost paid attention to this Deutsche Cup match just to watch Su Feng's match, but now Su Feng was replaced, and barrages were flying all over the sky again. I really don't understand. If Su Feng is substituted at this time, is Gerald planning to give up on this Deutsche Cup match? If Su Feng is gone, then what are we watching? Let's go, let's go. Didn't you see that Su Feng was injured? It was natural for the head coach to replace him. Yes, even if Su Feng is off the field, I will support Paderborn. One game, Paderborn's interim captain has changed a few times. As long as Paderborn wins this game, Su Feng will definitely start in the next Deutsche Cup. I'll look forward to seeing him play with the strong Bundesliga teams. What a contest. I hope Su Feng is okay. Come on Paderborn. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. Looking at the barrage, Zanjun chuckled and began to arouse the emotions of the fans in the live broadcast room. Don't worry too much. Judging from the scene just now, Su Feng seems to be he didn't suffer too much damage and was in good condition when he walked off the field. Yes, He Wei also observed this keenly and nodded in agreement. Moreover, Su Feng seems not to be very satisfied with the head coach Gerald's decision to replace him. He should still want to continue playing for the team and continue to help Paderborn equalize the score. However, Paderborn does not have much requirements in this German Cup. It is common sense to choose to withdraw in time. Just as Zunjun and He Wei were analyzing the situation on the field, the referee rushed to the penalty kick whistle. Paderborn's penalty kick came after Su Feng was replaced, chose to let Pulikovic take the kick standing at the 12-yard mark. Pulikovic took a few deep breaths to keep his emotions as calm as possible. This penalty kick was something Su Feng finally made for. The team had won it, and he couldn't kick away the penalty kick. Slowly exhaling a breath, Pulikovic took heavy steps and rushed towards the football. Bang! A clear sound sounded, and the football immediately lifted off the ground and flew towards the Dortmund goal. The quality of Plikovic's shot can only be said to be average, and the angle chosen was not a blind spot of the goal, but after all, this was a penalty kick. When the Dortmund goalkeeper made the save, he could only judge the direction of Plikovic's shot. Hey, Dortmund's goalkeeper guessed the wrong direction of Puliković's shot, and the football got into the net. The ball went in. Paderborn successfully used Su Feng's points to get back a point. It's currently 3-2. Only one goal behind. In the stadium, there were deafening cheers again. Paderborn fans stood up, waving their arms and flags high, as if they didn't want to lose to Dortmund in terms of team atmosphere. But obviously, this is impossible to achieve. Puliković, who scored this goal, was extremely excited. He ran frantically to Paderborn's bench and hugged Su Feng excitedly. Well done. Su Feng hugged Puliković and patted his back excitedly. No, this goal should belong to you. It was you who won this opportunity for Paderborn. Puliković spoke the truth in his heart bluntly. I will do my best to help the team win. Hearing these words, Su Feng nodded and once again felt the charm of the Paderborn team. Moreover, being able to meet a group of like-minded players in Paderborn is a very satisfying thing in itself. The ball went in. Puliković took the penalty kick and successfully scored this penalty. The excited Zonjun's voice trembled slightly. Obviously, at this time, Paderborn scored another goal, and he has every hope of continuing to compete with Dortmund. You know, because of Papastathopoulos' foul just now, has been sent off with a red card. For the rest of the second half, Paderborn was completely 11 versus 10. Dortmund was missing a central defender. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 129. The game is over. Ugly Paderborn. The site returned to the Westfalen Stadion again. On the field, the game soon resumed again. Bang bang bang. After Dortmund kicked off, they did not give up high position pressure because they lacked a teammate in the backcourt. Instead, they quickly organized an attack without any fear. They passed the ball quickly in the midfield, trying to replace defense with offense. Moreover, among the Dortmund players, The one who poses the greatest threat to their defense is none other than Feng, who wears jersey number 23, but at this moment, Feng was replaced by the head coach due to a fall in this case. Who else can break through Dortmund's defense? The 4 defenders, only one missing, should be more than enough to defend the current Paderborn forward. The 72nd minute of the game, the Dortmund player took advantage of the gap in Paderborn's defense and fired a pass directly into the rib space. Reus, who started quickly, jumped in at high speed, past Paderborn's defenders with continuous stops, and then strode into the penalty area. At this time, the shortcomings of Paderborn's defense were once again exposed. The fullbacks are unable to block the opponent's wingers from cutting inside. The center-backs are tall but have a fly in the ointment. They are useless against technical forwards. Bang! The German winger danced in the penalty area. After adjusting the angle, he chose to shoot the football lifts off the ground. As the Dortmund fans cheered, all the Paderborn fans covered their heads in horror and did not dare to watch. This shot might kill the game. Paderborn's only chance to tie was slim. Duong, a dull sound of banging iron sounded. Reus's shot was at a tricky angle and actually hit the goal post. This allowed Paderborn to escape death again. The football bounced back to the wing and did not make it out of the line. It was controlled by the Paderborn players, who arrived in time before other Dortmund players could rush up to press him. He directly passed a ball towards the front court with a long pass. His long pass was just to clear the ball, but by chance, Paderborn center Kosa was right near the landing point of the football. Dortmund's front court players quickly began to retreat, preparing to return to their own half to defend. Seeing this, Reus could only wave his arms a few times in dissatisfaction, turned around and started running with his teammates. The football dropped quickly. Kosa's position is relatively open, and there are currently no Dortmund defensive players around him who can interfere with him. So he stops the ball very easily. After stopping the ball, Kosa turned around and rushed toward the penalty area while observing the situation on the field. This time, there is a Dortmund center-back directly in front of him. After thinking for 2 seconds, Kosa did not hesitate to pass the ball back to Plekovic, who was running behind him because he has no confidence that he can get past the starting center-back of a Bundesliga giant on the sidelines. The Paderborn coaching bench. Oh my God. What is Kosa doing? Gerald asked with a dark face, raising his hands in confusion. With such a good opportunity, why don't you choose to continue to break through with the ball? Instead of passing the ball to Pulikovic behind, immediately after Gerald's words, before Pulikovic had advanced far with the ball, Dortmund's fullback quickly withdrew. Moreover, Paderborn's 2 wingers had already moved in. Even if Dortmund's fullbacks moved forward, the distance back to defense would not be much farther than Percivic. Therefore, passing the ball back to Pulikovic is really a very ridiculous operation. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. Don't you know the level of that kid from Kasana? Bradrick frowned, shook his head and sighed. He can't even get past a central defender from the 2nd division of Bundesliga. Do you still expect him to get past Dortmund? He was able to advance without making any mistakes while dribbling the ball. It should be congratulations. Gerald was speechless and wanted to curse in his heart. On the field after receiving the ball, Plekovic didn't rush far before he encountered 2 Dortmund players. Bang bang bang. He moved the football, trying to quickly change direction and try to get rid of it, but the 2 Dortmund defensive players were not ordinary people. They kept Prejudice stuck and didn't give him any chance. Finally, after Pulikovic dribbled the ball for a few more meters, the Dortmund defender behind him took a timely step and knocked the football away from his feet. Dortmund launched a quick counter-attack again on the field. Paderborn's situation once again fell into disadvantage. Seeing this scene, Feng, who was sitting on the bench, couldn't bear it anymore. He stood up and walked towards Gerald, who was standing in the coaching area. Coach, you have also seen that I cannot be missing on the front line. Gerald heard the sound and saw Feng approaching, turned around and looked at him with a slight frown. Feng continued with a somewhat uncomfortable tone, in that opportunity just now, if I had been here, I would have scored the goal and helped the team recover the score. Gerald nodded. He also understood that just now, that opportunity is indeed very good. If the person dribbling the ball is Feng, it will definitely be possible, but is there any use in saying this now? He has already replaced Feng, and it really doesn't matter whether he can go further in this Deutsche Cup competition. Feng, I believe that if you had scored the ball just now, you would have scored. Gerald paused as he said, but you have to understand that our goal is to break into the Bundesliga this season, not to win the Deutsche Cup. A good result, if you keep playing, you will be easily injured. Okay, Mr. Gerald, I understand. Feng interrupted Gerald's speech and did not want to continue. He continued to listen, turned and walked towards the bench. He could understand Gerald's thoughts as the team's head coach, but he was still unwilling to do so as he had just entered the professional league. Soon, the situation continued to be turbulent. Dortmund once again approached the city. After several pulls, Jungdungen shot a long shot directly through the Paderborn goal. Wonderful world wave break. Dortmund leads 4-2, and it can be said that there is no suspense in the next game. In the following time, Paderborn was completely suppressed and unable to pass the football to the front court. Even if the goalkeeper or defender's big feet went straight to the front, they still couldn't reach the front court. They headed the northwest and were stopped by Dortmund defenders. It can be said that even if Dortmund has one less player than Paderborn, they are not at a disadvantage at all. The 89th minute of the game, Aubameyang's long shot was blocked by the Paderborn goalkeeper. Mkhitaryan made a supplementary shot in front of the goal and successfully pushed the football into Paderborn's goal. The ball was scored again, 5-2. It can be said that Paderborn has no chance of comeback at all in stoppage time. It was obvious that Paderborn's players no longer had the same energy as at the beginning of the game. The Paderborn fans finally couldn't bear it anymore and chose to leave the stadium early. They felt that today's game in Paderborn was really ugly. Chapter 130. The game is over. Exclusive interview with Feng. Beep. Beep. Beep as the referee on duty blew the whistle to end the game. The Deutsche Cup competition for the top 8 spots came to an end. Dortmund defeated Paderborn 5-2 and advanced to the quarter-finals. Bang bang bang. Dortmund. Dortmund. Bang bang bang. Dortmund. Dortmund. Suddenly the entire Westfalen Stadium, Dortmund fans stood up one after another, rhythmically beating drums and shouting to celebrate the team on the field. Dortmund's players enjoyed the cheers of the fans and gathered together to celebrate the victory. The Paderborn players walked toward the locker room with their heads lowered in melancholy. Okay, audience. Zanjun's voice sounded a little regretful in the commentary room on the sidelines. This match in the top 16 of the Deutsche Cup ends here. Paderborn faces this. It is not easy for a Hornet with all the stars to score 2 goals. Feng played 70 minutes in this game and scored 1 goal, and also made another goal in the penalty area. Penalty kick. It can be said that the performance is very good. I believe that he will definitely win the Golden Boot, the most valuable among Chinese players in world football this season. He Wei also nodded and said with some regret, in this cup, we can no longer see Feng, but in the subsequent Bundesliga league, we can still see his wonderful performance, and in a while, we will have a Feng exclusive interview. If you are interested, you can continue to watch the live broadcast on the net. Goodbye. After cutting off the microphone, Zanjun and He Wei had no time to feel sorry for Feng. They packed up their things and prepared to wait for the Paderborn players to leave. On the way back to the bus from the stadium, I conducted an exclusive interview with him. In the stadium locker room, the Paderborn players walked in dejectedly. Gerald glanced at the children whose eyes had lost their light and said to everyone, it's a pity that we did not defeat Dortmund today and reach the quarterfinals of the German Cup, but this does not deny us. We have other pursuits. You don't have to be downcast because of this. Keep your heads up, continue to do what we should do. We should work hard to make ourselves stronger and better this winter. This is what we should do. We must unite and fight for each other around us, fighting side by side like a family. Come on, kids. After hearing the words of head coach Gerald, a group of players who had not felt the taste of failure for a long time raised their heads and looked at each other towards their teammates. It's hard to imagine that this is a team that is hard to win at the beginning of this season. They have had ups and downs this season, from 2 consecutive defeats without scoring a goal at the beginning, to now being undefeated in 13 rounds of the league. Driven by this change, to be honest, the players could not accept losing the game 5-2, but the words of head coach Gerald gave them a reminder. Losing this game is not a big deal. The children can continue to work hard and continue to seek revenge from Dortmund after going to the Bundesliga next season. Although the possibility of defeating Dortmund in the Bundesliga is low, it is better than having a direction when life is confusing. Having a direction and a motivation to move forward can help frustrated people regain their fighting spirit. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. Afterwards, the Paderborn players exchanged a few words with each other and seemed to no longer deny themselves with the loss of this game. They encouraged each other and headed outside the stadium. At this time, a team member suddenly came over and told Feng that media from China were coming and wanted to conduct an exclusive interview with him. After learning that it was the platform of QQ.com, Feng agreed without hesitation. In his previous life, he thought this platform was still very good. It can be said that it is the best place for most fans in the country to consult football data. It contains information about football and is also a holy place for all football fans following the staff. Su Feng came to an open space outside the stadium. The area had already been separated by the stadium staff, but there were still enthusiastic fans outside the court, and after walking in, Su Feng was still a little surprised when he saw several Asian faces standing among the staff, because among the crowd stood the famous Chinese commentators Zhan Jun and teacher He Wei. They were the invited guests for this live broadcast. The management of the net, who understood the effect of the program, naturally did not choose those sports reporters, but directly let the two football guests go. Moreover, Zhan Jun and He Wei were naturally very willing to meet and get to know Su Feng. After adjusting his facial expression, Su Feng walked over happily. In the past life, I don't know how many wonderful football commentary these two teachers brought to Chinese fans. Now that we can finally meet him, he is quite excited. Su Feng, I am football commentator Zhan Jun. I am very happy to meet you in Germany. I am football commentator He Wei. Hello Su Feng. It is really enjoyable to be able to go to Europe and commentate on the games of our own players. Yes, the two of them shook hands with Su Feng one after another and exchanged pleasantries for a while. Then Zhan Junke, who was holding the microphone, motioned for Su Feng to stand opposite the camera. Su Feng nodded and waited for Zhan Jun to ask questions. Mr. Su Feng, previous information shows that you are not a player sent to European youth training by domestic clubs, right? That's right. Can you please tell me the story of your youth training in Europe? Here, Zhan Jun and He Wei both looked at Su Feng expectantly, hoping that he could say more, because data shows that Su Feng has participated in youth training alone in Europe since he was a child, and there is no record of domestic youth training under this circumstance. Domestic fans are even more confused about Su Feng's story of studying abroad. After thinking for a while, Su Feng said slowly, I have an uncle who works in Germany. Because I loved football since I was a child, my father asked my uncle to send me to a local youth training camp. When I was 15 years old, he officially joined the Mönchengladbach youth training team, but was expelled in June this year. Expelled in June. Zhan Jun took a breath. Isn't that just before the start of this season? It's unbelievable that Mönchengladbach sacked a young talented player later. Zhan Jun asked with some disbelief. You said you were fired by Mönchengladbach. Why? Maybe the sports director doesn't like me very much? Su Feng nodded expressionlessly. Nodding, he remembered his experience at Mönchengladbach. To be honest, when he was 15 years old, he had not yet traveled through time. Without the blessing of golden fingers, he was able to be selected by the Mönchengladbach youth training camp. He was quite grateful to this team, but when he was 17 years old, he traveled back in time and his football skills continued to improve explosively, but in the end he faced a cruel expulsion. He was still a little regretful, but it can only be said that he has no luck with a Bundesliga team Mönchengladbach. What happened next? Later, I joined Freiburg, but I was loaned to Paderborn at the beginning of the season. Chapter 131. Breaking news from media reporters. After hearing Su Feng tell his story about studying abroad, Zhan Jun couldn't help but nodded. To be honest, in the current dark situation of Chinese football, it is not easy to have professional players from the Chinese Super League and get the opportunity to play in Europe, but Su Feng came from a well-established European youth training background. Of course, because of Su Feng's identity, more Chinese fans affirm his strength and believe that he is the future of Chinese football. I heard that China's Evergrande Football Club invited you to join some time ago, but you rejected it. Zhan Jun, with a smile on his face, then asked a difficult question. Have you ever considered returning to the Chinese Super League? What about playing football? Yes, I have not considered returning to China to play football for the time being. Upon hearing this question, Su Feng spoke bluntly and did not save any face for Chinese football. My future plan is to play in the 5 major leagues. I am still young and need a stadium with a relatively high level of competition to improve my skills. So, in recent years, I will always compete for the Champions League. Keep working hard. After saying that, Su Feng paused and frowned slightly. However, I am a Chinese player. If China needs to recruit me to join the national team in the future, I will consider joining. After all, rather than winning the Bundesliga Golden Boot or the Champions League, I hope China can win the World Cup. At this point, fortunately, Zhan Jun is also a veteran in the workplace, so he controlled his facial expressions and did not laugh out loud. Are you kidding me? China will win the World Cup. You can't even qualify for the World Cup. This is simply impossible at present. Unless China does a good job in youth training and waits for the next wave of young talents to grow up and become excellent professional players, then they will have a chance to enter the World Cup, and Su Feng obviously knew these things. He had never thought about leading the Chinese national team to achieve any outstanding results by himself. This is tantamount to Paderborn versus Dortmund in this German Cup match. Even though Su Feng is very capable of scoring goals, he still can't stand against the Bundesliga giants whose overall strength is several times greater than yours. What's more, the overall strength of the Chinese national team may not be as strong as Paderborn, right? Su Feng said these words simply because he was a patriot and had no other intentions. Whether he can join the dark and corrupt national team in the future is another matter, of course. According to Su Feng's character, it is most likely impossible after that. Zhang Zhen stopped asking these slightly sensitive topics, then he started asking about Su Feng's pursuits this season and so on. But the Chinese fans, who knew how to watch in the live broadcast room of QQ.com, started to quarrel in the live broadcast room. Many fans who deeply love the development of Chinese football are not convinced by Su Feng's statement that the competitive level of the Chinese Super League is low. They complained in the live broadcast room and expressed different opinions, but this is simply the truth. It is now the peak of the Huaxia Jinhong football era. When this period passes, Huaxia football will go downhill. There will be endless famous scenes in the Chinese Super League, which are really incomparable to the sub-level matches in the 5 major leagues. It can only be said that the forest is big and there are all kinds of birds. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. On the other side, while Paderborn's head coach Gerald was waiting for Su Feng's interview to end, he was also surrounded by a swarm of news reporters. Mr. Gerald, what are your thoughts after Paderborn's defeat today? In this game, player number 23 Su Feng obviously did not suffer serious losses, but you replaced him. Is it for the sake of the subsequent leagues? The failure of this game means that Paderborn will stop in the top 16 of this Deutsche Cup. Mr. Gerald, do you have any thoughts? According to people familiar with the matter, reported that Paderborn player Su Feng was drunk in a nightclub last night. I wonder if this was the main reason that affected his performance today. What? Su Feng was drunk last night? Many news reporters didn't know this news at first, but suddenly a reporter said that Su Feng had been drinking last night, and the news immediately exploded. At present, other reporters, regardless of whether it is true or not, have all focused on this matter. Did player Su Feng be replaced because he drank? Is that why he was in poor condition today? Originally, Gerald didn't really want to answer the reporter's question. But now the questions were getting more and more outrageous, so he had no choice but to frown and speak out. Paderborn's defeat today is not the fault of any player. Every player in Paderborn worked very hard, and in this fair game, we failed to defeat Dortmund entirely because they were better than Dortmund. We are just stronger. Of course, Paderborn's players will also need to work harder in the future. Gerald's eyes showed a little chill, and he continued to say to the reporter who first said that Su Feng was drunk, "As for I don't think so about Su Feng's poor performance. He contributed a goal in this game and also successfully made points. If I hadn't been worried about his injury and replaced him, then he will score 2 goals. There is no doubt that he is still Paderborn's best player in this game. We should not deny him, but encourage him, and last night we went to Suzhou. What Feng is doing is his private life. I think we have no right to ask, what do you think?" After saying this, Gerald waved his hand, indicating that he would no longer accept questions from media reporters, and walked toward the bus alone. Walked in the direction there was only a group of reporters left who were still not satisfied, and were blocked by the staff outside the cordon. Soon, after finishing the interview, Su Feng returned to Paderborn's bus and prepared to return to Paderborn's training base. "Feng, where did you go last night?" When Su Feng returned to the bus, Gerald did not ask the driver to drive out of the stadium immediately. Instead, he walked up to Su Feng first and asked angrily, facing Gerald's questioning. Su Feng was a little dazed and couldn't figure out the reason. "What's wrong? Mr. Gerald, did you go to a nightclub to drink last night?" Gerald did not answer Su Feng's rhetorical question and continued to ask. Yes." Su Feng didn't realize the seriousness of the problem at first. He thought it was just Gerald, the head coach, who knew about it, so he asked himself angrily, but after hearing what he said next, Su Feng instantly felt a headache. "I have seen you perform well on the field recently, but you have been neglected. Don't you know that you need to rest early the day before the game? And what's even worse is that the media reporters outside already know this. Who knew they would use this matter? Why would they spend so much time talking nonsense?" Chapter 132. Style Issues. Paderborn's punishment. After hearing Gerald's words, Su Feng showed a hint of irritation on his face. This is what media reporters do for a living. Whenever there is a hot topic, they will only focus on traffic and report indiscriminately. Naturally, There will be many rumors and subjective assumptions. For example, if Paderborn loses in this Deutsche Cup match, media reporters will probably forcibly link Feng with Paderborn's loss to Dortmund. Poor performance is due to staying up late last night and drinking too much. But actually, what does Paderborn's loss to Dortmund have to do with Feng? He has tried his best perhaps. If Feng had not been replaced by Gerald, Paderborn could have scored 1 or 2 more goals, but facing the powerful Dortmund, 1 or 2 goals could not solve the problem at all. And what is the reality? Feng stayed in the nightclub for more than an hour. After completing the special training task, he came back early to rest, which did not affect his game the next day at all. Mr. Gerald, I went back very early last night. Vidra can testify to this. I even brought him supper when I came back. After hearing this, Gerald looked at Vidra next to Feng, seemed to scold him immediately if Vidra told the truth. After hearing this, Vidra shrugged, his eyes revealing frankness. Yes, Feng did bring me supper last night. Mr. Gerald, if you don't believe it, you can check the phone records. Looking at Vidra's eyes, Gerald believed that he would not tell lies. Besides, doesn't he still know what Feng's habits are? It is acceptable for you to be disobedient and like to go out to drink and play. As long as it does not affect daily training and competitions, Feng can still turn a blind eye based on Feng's current performance. What's the use of saying this now? Will the media reporters believe our one-sided words? Gerald frowned, thinking about how to handle this matter. After a while, he continued, Feng, this matter is not entirely your problem, but due to pressure from the media, I will report it to the club and give you relevant penalties, which can be regarded as a lesson to you. At that time, let's see if we can minimize the impact of this matter. After speaking, Gerald slowly exhaled a breath, turned around and returned to his seat, and at the same time informed the driver to start the engine car. Feng did not object to the club's punishment mentioned by Gerald. This matter was accidentally made public by the media, and the club's punishment can minimize the impact of this matter to a certain extent. After all, he drank too much the night before the game, so he could only suffer the consequences of being dumb. At the same time, Feng was also thinking silently in his heart. It seemed that next time he went to a nightclub for special training, he would have to put on a little disguise, otherwise it would be over if he was seen by media reporters again. Moreover, luckily this time I was just drunk. If I dance with a beautiful woman next time, it will affect my popularity too much. After this episode, the Paderborn bus started and headed towards the city of Paderborn. Just as the Paderborn players were returning, the Deutsche Cup news from the German media quickly hit the hot search. Good news, Dortmund beat Paderborn easily, and the top scorer in Bundesliga 2 is out. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. The young Chinese player from Paderborn got drunk in the nightclub on the eve of the game. Crack the case, the truth behind Paderborn's loss. Can this kind of player really be used? Soon, as these news hit the hot searches, Feng once again became popular in Germany. Originally, the news attention of the Bundesliga 2 could not be compared with a Bundesliga. Therefore, many German fans who do not follow Bundesliga 2 games are not very familiar with Feng. A Chinese player who came out of nowhere, but the popularity of the Deutsche Cup match is really too high. A player who was labeled as the one who caused Paderborn to lose the game managed to make all German fans remember his name. There are also different opinions in the comments section. He actually went to a nightclub to drink the night before the game? The professional quality of this Chinese player is really too low. It is really a pity that the game was lost because of this kind of player. Paderborn should hurry up and give such a player to let's move it down to the upper echelon. I really don't understand. The media dares to say anything. Dortmund can win against Paderborn. Isn't it possible to win? They actually blame a young player for Paderborn's failure. What virtues and abilities does he have? Can a top scorer in the Bundesliga 2 be so powerful? Royce and Aubameyang casually beat up young players like this. Even if he doesn't drink, most of them didn't. Fans who have followed Feng's games naturally have a negative attitude towards Feng reported in the media, and there are also many doubts about him in the comment area. But after all, most of the Bundesliga league schedule is coming to an end, and many fans of the Bundesliga league have seen the match between their home team and Paderborn. They are relatively familiar with the top scorer in the Bundesliga too. Are you people talking nonsense because you haven't watched the game between Paderborn and Dortmund? Feng performed very well in this game, not losing to Dortmund's forwards at all. If Dortmund's Papastathopoulos hadn't made a flagrant foul and bumped into Feng, the outcome of this game would not have been certain. Feng is fully capable of being a starting striker in the Bundesliga. I do approve of Feng. Strength. Paderborn's loss to Dortmund in this game is not unfair, but it is definitely not Feng's fault. Unscrupulous reporter. In the comment area, fans and friends with different opinions did not. It was one-sided and completely abusive to Su Feng. Many Bundesliga fans began to speak out for Su Feng and pointed the finger at the unscrupulous media. It can be said that this news report did not cause much interference to Su Feng, but it still reached the ears of the club's head coach, who was originally interested in Su Feng. For this reason, many head coaches have begun to re-examine Su Feng's professional ethics. After all, in the team, in addition to technical ability, professional ethics is also very important. What if you can't control the new players and completely ruin the atmosphere in the locker room? Why play football like that? At this moment, the official website of Paderborn Football Club issued a notice today. The club has received feedback from the media regarding player Su Feng's disciplinary style. We are now actively implementing club regulations and making penalty decisions on relevant personnel. 1. The player Su Feng will be notified and evaluated by the whole team, and a fine of €1,000 will be imposed. 2. The club management, head coach Gerald and assistant coach Bradrick will be informed and evaluated by the whole team, and fined €1,000 and €500 respectively. Chapter 133. Agent, Raiola takes action. The report on Su Feng's punishment was quickly reprinted on the German Football Forum, and this naturally continued to rouse heated discussions among fans. After all, it looked like a penalty notice, but as long as you think about it a little, you can find that this punishment is really not painful or itchy. Just a fine of €1,000 is not painful for a Bundesliga player, let alone those big stars worth tens of millions of euros. It can only be said that Paderborn Football Club's attitude towards punishment is there, but it is only an attitude. The next day, Italy, a luxurious office in an office building in Rome, the capital. The famous agent Mino Raiola is lying on the sofa, quietly enjoying afternoon tea, but this beautiful atmosphere was ruined by the assistant, who suddenly broke in. Some nervous assistants did not choose to speak, but directly placed a document in their hands on Raiola's tea table. What document is this? Raiola put down the teacup in his hand. When his assistant didn't reply, he frowned slightly and picked up the document and read it. What caught his eye was naturally the recent media reports about Su Feng. After quickly browsing the file, Raiola sneered, "Are young people so unbridled nowadays? He was so young and got drunk in a nightclub at the age of 17. Is his brain damaged?" The assistant was stunned for a moment, thought for a while, and then uttered a few words. "I don't know who Su Feng is, and it's hard to understand why a football genius would go out drinking. Wouldn't it be better to spend all his free time on training? This will only be good for his future career." Raiola needed to express his approval. It can be said that when he took the initiative to contact Su Feng and signed an agent contract with him, he took a fancy to the potential behind him in the future. He can be sent to those wealthy teams at a very high price. However, this is also conditional at present. It seems that there is no problem with Su Feng's talent. In less than 15 rounds, he has already scored nearly 20 goals. His talent is very terrifying. However, whether the incident of drinking before the game, whether it is true or false, is exposed, it will have a greater impact on Raiola's efforts to obtain higher transfer fees and annual salary for him in the future. After thinking for a while, Raiola made an immediate decision. "It seems that I am going to Paderborn in Germany recently. This young boy must give it a good beating." With that, Raiola stood up from the sofa and prepared to go to the office. He walked out, but after taking a few steps, he seemed to remember something. "By the way, let the company's public relations department take action. No matter what method is used, they must help Su Feng suppress public opinion." The assistant nodded and followed Raiola out to deal with the matters he had just ordered. As for Raiola, he went home, packed his luggage, and got on the plane to Paderborn at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. He arrived at the door of the Paderborn Training Center on time. At this time, the entrance of the Paderborn Training Center was already surrounded by fans. They were all waiting for Su Feng, Hugh Niemeyer and other Paderborn players to come out from the afternoon training. "I'd better go forward and ask for an autograph and a photo." This is not difficult for the Paderborn players, therefore, they usually agree to a few players casually. And this results in a steady stream of fans waiting here every day. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. Raiola also joined their team and stood at the door waiting patiently. He did not choose to call Su Feng directly to inform him of his arrival in advance. In this case, Su Feng may change his itinerary and come specifically to receive Raiola, and this was not what he wanted to see. He just wanted to see what activities Su Feng would do in his daily life and make a surprise inspection to see if this young boy had gone out to fool around again. But as time passed, many Paderborn players gradually came out of the training center. After all, most of the players are not locals, live in apartments a few kilometers away, and do not choose to drive, Sagric, every Paderborn player comes out, and the fans will chant their names. What makes Raiola a little anxious is why Su Feng hasn't come out yet, even if he didn't notice it himself. With so many fans here, it's impossible that he didn't see it, right? Moreover, it's almost 6 o'clock, and the training is almost over. Why haven't you come out yet? Could it be that this kid is practicing extra at the training ground? Raiola, who couldn't wait any longer, came to the guard at the Paderborn training center. After identifying himself, he stood at the guard and waited. The guard did not contact Su Feng directly, but called Bradrick, the assistant coach of the first team. After learning that Raiola was coming, Bradrick quickly put down his work and rushed to the door of the training center. As a well-known football agent in the football world, Bradrick still dare not neglect. Some big clubs may still hate him, but Paderborn's management still likes him very much. After all, Raiola can bring many good players to the club, and the situation of Paderborn club is here. To be honest, even if Raiola wants to rip them off, he won't get much more money. The economic strength lies here. Of course, there is another reason. The winter window is coming soon, and Paderborn will sign a new transfer contract with Su Feng. All these matters will be discussed with Raiola in the future. Bradrick didn't know if Raiola came to Paderborn because of this. Mr. Raiola, welcome to Paderborn Football Club. Bradrick, who hurried over, came straight to Raiola and shook hands with him cordially. Mr. Gerald, the head coach, is not on the club at the moment. I am Bradrick, the assistant coach of the first team. If you have anything, you can tell me. After shaking hands, Raiola turned to the front of his eyes. He took off his sunglasses and showed a friendly smile. Hello, Mr. Bradrick. After saying hello, Bradrick led Raiola towards the club while introducing some basic information about the club. Raiola, however, did not follow him around. I actually came here today to find Su Feng, but I didn't see him at the door just now. Please, Mr. Bradrick, please take me there. Upon hearing this, Bradrick's face showed a smile. A hint of doubt. Normally Raiola is Su Feng's agent, so he would naturally have his contact information, but why did he come to Paderborn to find him instead of calling him directly? Although Bradrick was confused, Raiola was a guest after all, so naturally this small request had to be met. Okay, let me call and ask where Su Feng is now. With that, Bradrick took out his cell phone and prepared to call Su Feng, but Raiola quickly held down his hand. Chapter 134. Secretly visiting Su Feng and beating him. Mr. Bradrick, I actually came to see Su Feng because of the public opinion about Su Feng a few days ago. Seeing that the matter could no longer be concealed, Raiola did not think about concealing it anymore and directly told himself the idea was expressed. You should also know that I am Su Feng's agent, and I don't want Su Feng to have any stain on his career. In terms of his talent, I believe every head coach can't help but sigh after seeing it. A few words, but in terms of a player's private life, I have to know what he is doing all day long, and I have to give him a beating. After saying that, Raiola showed a somewhat lewd smile. In the future, I want to send him away. To join a wealthy team and receive a generous transfer fee, he must also maintain a good reputation. With these words, Raiola spoke to Bradrick's heart. He also knew that a genius like Su Feng would not be able to stay in Paderborn forever in the future, and Paderborn's best solution would be to sell him to a wealthy team at a high price, and this transfer fee, after excluding Raiola's commission, will be Su Feng's best gift to Paderborn. Paderborn also needs to use this high transfer fee to improve the overall strength of the team. This is not only related to the interests of agent Mino Raiola, but also the interests of Paderborn. Bradrick, who understood this, nodded, put his phone back in his pocket, and said to Raiola with a serious face, since that's the case, Mr. Raiola, I won't call Su Feng. I'll take you to where he might be staying. Then, Raiola nodded happily and agreed, and the two people started chatting while walking towards the football field of Paderborn Training Center. And this is the first place Raiola wants to visit, is a small-town football club. Paderborn's training center is actually not very big. If you just walk on your feet, you can walk from start to finish in about 10 minutes on the way. Bradrick and Raiola also chatted about other topics, focusing everything on Su Feng. He fully revealed some of Su Feng's playing style, his usual daily habits, etc. As an assistant coach, he has the best understanding of Su Feng's daily life. 5 minutes later, the two came to the side of the training field located in the middle of the training center. Looking at the only training field with lights still on, Bradrick seemed to have expected it and frowned slightly. Am I right? Since Su Feng was loaned to Paderborn, I have hardly seen him stay on the court for extra practice after the afternoon training. Raiola's eyes were a little complicated. This was told to him by others, and he would definitely question it, but it happened to be the assistant coach who had the closest relationship with the players on the team. It's really hard for me to believe that at such a young age, Feng is so powerful with his feet, and he didn't get it through hard training. There seemed to be a slight rock in his tone, but Raiola soon recovered to that level. The state of being a fat man, Mr. Bradrick, Feng is not at the training ground. Then take me to where he's most likely to be. I must give him a good scolding today. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels, Bradrick said lightly. He laughed a few times and seemed to be looking forward to tonight's scene of Raiola reprimanding Feng. However, he did not say it directly. After all, Feng is still a lone player at Paderborn. No. It won't be long before Feng becomes a real Paderborn player, even though it might not be for long soon. Bradrick took Raiola to the entertainment room not far away. Seeing that the lights in the entertainment room are still on, there is a high probability that Feng is inside. Bradrick shrugged helplessly and pointed to the entertainment room in front of him. Raiola's face looked a little ugly, and the wrinkles on his face appeared, making people feel like he was about to explode. After briefly responding to Bradrick, Raiola walked forward without saying a word and pushed open the door to the entertainment room. What caught his eye was naturally Feng lying leisurely on the sofa, lowering his head and playing with his mobile phone. Mr. Raiola, why are you here? Hearing the sound of the door opening, Feng put down his phone and raised his head. Seeing that the person who came was actually Raiola, a look of confusion suddenly appeared on his face. Haha, why can't I come to the Paderborn training center? Feng, you are the player I signed. Isn't it natural for me to come and see you? Raiola sneered and slowly looked head towards Feng. Came over. Looking at Raiola's expression, Feng suddenly felt nervous facing a person like Raiola. If he loses his temper with you directly, you might feel better, but at this time, he had a dark face and spoke to Feng with a smile. He looks like a smiling tiger. No, I was just wondering why you didn't tell me in advance when you came to Paderborn, so that I could pick you up at the airport. Feng replied with some embarrassment, stood up and asked Raiola to sit down. Onto the couch. Raiola looked at Feng fiercely for a few seconds, then calmed down for a while before continuing. Feng, I always thought you were a very self-disciplined player to have such strength at the age of 17. But your recent performances have made me so disappointed in you. Shouldn't you jive? Let me explain. Why do you hang out in the entertainment room during your break, and even go to a nightclub to get drunk the night before the game? How old are you, and why do you have these hobbies? As soon as he came up, he asked Feng a series of questions, which made Feng feel a little uncomfortable. He had originally thought that the news and public opinion last time would have a lot of impact on him, but he really didn't expect that even the famous gold medal agent Mino Raiola would come to his door in person. Mr. Raiola, the hobbies you mentioned do not seem to stipulate that only people of that age can have them, right? I do have the habit of drinking, but this has never had any impact on my game. It was during my rest time. Feng's eyes showed a bit of cruelty, and his tone did not mean to give in at all. Do you also think that it was me drinking before the game that caused my performance to go wrong? What if? In this case, I really doubt your ability to judge. You haven't watched that game, so you just think it's news and public opinion and just define it for me. Chapter 135. The rest of the league is under heavy pressure. Faced with Feng's sudden question, Raiola, who had always been aloof, was speechless. To be honest, when he came to look for Feng, he never watched the German Cup match between Paderborn and Dortmund. His men have signed many players, which makes Raiola generally sensitive to player data after a game. Those contributions can be seen at a glance by looking at the data, but when faced with Feng's incident, Raiola's first thought was to deal with the style issues in Feng's private life, and he subconsciously asked his assistant to suppress the impact of public opinion instead of paying attention to the true situation of the matter. Of course, part of the reason is that in today's era, many people are affected by subjective reporting of news, not paying too much attention to the reality of things. I didn't tell you everything about your last game, I was just asking you about your private life. Raiola slowly exhaled, his tone no longer as strong as when he first came in. You are almost an adult, you should know the most basic things you should do and those things you should not do. Right, I know that your drinking has not affected your game, but what will the managers and fans of other clubs do? Think? They will only remember that you drank before the game. At this point, Raiola seemed to have touched the interests of the fat man, and his tone gradually became a little excited. Now is not the time for you to enjoy life. You should go fight. Go hard. Only in this way can you become the best player in the world. I want to know, What is the meaning of your playing football? Is it just to make money and enjoy life? Feng shook his head and said nothing. He replied without hesitation, no, I want to become the best player in the world, but this does not affect my daily life. Daily training alone is enough to improve myself. As he spoke, although Feng's tone was firm, to be honest, he still didn't have the confidence he knew why his strength improved so quickly. It was undoubtedly due to the system, but Feng also needs to enjoy life by himself and complete systematic special training to improve. In a disguised sense, this is also Feng's effort. I can't see through you more and more. Seeing that Feng was still stubborn, Raiola lay on the back of the sofa in annoyance and replied, looking at the ceiling, your mind is very mature in some aspects, beyond that of children of the same age, and even better than Ibrahimovic. But why can't you be strict with yourself in terms of your private life? I think football is my favorite sport. But sports and life can also be separated, Feng said, paused for a moment, seemed to remember something and then continued, I believe in the future, Mr. Raiola, you can understand what I said, here. After what Feng said, Raiola immediately changed his expression. He is a famous agent, and many of his stars can patiently accept his opinions, but why can't Feng, a young player, didn't Ibrahimovic, who was in a trough that year, follow his advice, sell his watches and luxury cars, and devote himself to training, huh? Raiola slowly exhaled a breath of turbid air, and Raiola was visibly angry. Okay, since you said so, I will never interfere with your private life from now on. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. However, when you want to join a wealthy club in the future, I won't be able to use my connections to convince those arrogant head coaches to give you a chance. Just take responsibility for your stupid behavior. Raiola stood up and prepared to leave. Since it was not good to talk to Feng here, there was no need for him to stay in Paderborn after all. He has many other things on his hands that he needs to deal with. Don't worry, Mr. Raiola, I will use my strength to conquer those coaches. Feng said these words sincerely towards Raiola, who was walking out the door. Raiola paused after hearing this, but continued to walk out with heavy steps. After a few seconds after Raiola walked out of the door, he walked towards the door of the Paderborn training center without looking back, not even paying attention to Bradrick, who had been standing outside the door. Seeing this, Bradrick had no choice but to walk into the recreation room and comfort Feng. Feng, there is no need for you to have such a quarrel with your agent. In the future, you will still need to rely on him to help you move into a wealthy club. Looking at Bradrick, Feng calmly shook his head. Don't worry. Well, I believe I will conquer the head coaches of wealthy clubs on the field in the future. I need an agent with outstanding strength, and I just want him to help me deal with trivial contract matters. Raiola, although he is very angry, he will help me fight for higher transfer fees and annual salary at the negotiation table in the future. Feng's tone was very calm, and he really didn't look like a 17-year-old child at all. Say the words knowing that he was not angry and went to extremes. Bradrick still felt that Feng was somewhat arrogant. How could a 17-year-old player say this so brazenly? Is Feng really so confident? Bradrick just felt a little headache and couldn't think clearly. But Feng had already said this, and he knew that no matter what he said, Feng would not be able to listen. The only thing he can do now is to pray for Feng, hoping that he will really be that strong in the future. As for what Feng said about Raiola's thoughts, Bradrick didn't have any problem in the football world. Everyone knows that Raiola is a famous vampire who regards wealth as his life and will definitely not give up the interests that can be fought for in this way. Feng continued to train step by step with the team. The daily training tasks are also completed very well, because he is stronger than others, so even his performance in training is better than other players. However, head coach Gerald and assistant coach Bradrick looked at him in a daze. As for the team, the daily training is a bit depressing and no longer as relaxing as usual. After the last Deutsche Cup match against Dortmund, Gerald returned to the club and led the players in a review, pointed out the players' problems, of course, the most on defense. But now, the team captain Hunemeyer is injured and may be absent for 3 months. This is completely adding insult to injury for Paderborn, which has serious defensive problems. But there is also good news. The first half of the season is about to end, and there will be an off-season. Therefore, Hunemeyer will not delay too many games, but in the remaining games, just seeing the name of the opponent gives everyone at Paderborn a headache. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 136. Strong rival Leipzig Red Bull suffered a disastrous defeat November 28. In the Bundesliga 2, Paderborn's 16th round match came as promised. The opponent in this game is very difficult. It is the current number 1 in the Bundesliga 2, Leipzig Red Bull. Leipzig Red Bull has been very successful in recruiting players this season. Now the players are getting along very well, and they cooperate very well with each other. In the previous 15 rounds, there were 10 wins, 3 draws and 2 losses, totaling 33 points. Paderborn currently has 9 wins, 4 draws and 2 losses, with a total of 31 points, temporarily ranking second in the Bundesliga 2. It can be said that if Paderborn can win this game, they will top the Bundesliga for the first time this season. There will be a high probability of winning the Bundesliga championship in the future, but as luck would have it, Captain Hunemeyer was injured in the last Deutsche Cup game and was unable to play. Therefore, Paderborn, an originally sound team, will lose almost half of its defensive capabilities. Antoine, who came on the bench, was unable to assume the important role of the team's defensive core. Head coach Gerald did not hesitate to put him on the bench again and replaced him with another younger player. If Hunemeyer had not been injured, Gerald would still be very confident that he would win this game and reach the top of the Bundesliga, but judging from the current situation, the probability is not very high. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, at the Benteler Arena, Paderborn's home stadium, the game for the top spot in the Bundesliga 2 officially started. Feng once again put on the captain's armband and led Paderborn in the home game. The Paderborn fans also knew what this game meant to the team, and they were extremely excited to shout in the spectator seats with the home advantage. Paderborn's players seized the opening at the beginning of the game and caught Red Bull Leipzig off guard in the 8th minute. After Feng received a pass from Vidra, he volleyed directly without stopping the ball again, successfully giving Paderborn a good start. But the excellent results achieved by Red Bull Leipzig this season are not a fault. They quickly adjusted and started fierce battles with Paderborn, several times in dangerous areas. Because Paderborn's defense was indeed lacking in ability, Red Bull Leipzig came to the city several times. In the 33rd minute of the game, the Leipzig Red Bull winger cut inside, past Paderborn's center back, and scored a single goal to equalize the game. Then, the Leipzig Red Bull players became more and more courageous, and Paderborn was almost breathless several times. Feng also had few opportunities to get the ball in the front court until the stoppage time of the first half. The Leipzig Red Bull forward hit the world wave and once again penetrated Paderborn's goal. There is no way Paderborn's defense really can't stop Leipzig Red Bull's tall and strong center forward. In the second half, Gerald, who was anxious in the coaching bench, rotated players several times, but the effect was obviously not very good. In the 69th minute of the game, the Red Bull Leipzig army pressed forward after the winger cut in and passed in. The tall center player jumped up and drove the ball hard into Paderborn's goal. In the remaining game time, Paderborn resisted desperately and constantly launched counterattacks, but still failed to equalize the score. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. When the referee blew the tentative whistle, the game between the two teams was finally settled at 1-3. A shameful score. It can be said that Red Bull Leipzig crushed Paderborn's current and complete team to the ground at the Benteler Arena. He easily won the away game, gained 3 points, and consolidated his position at the top of the league. When the Paderborn players walked out of the stadium with disappointed faces, the Paderborn fans did not show much dissatisfaction with their performance today. Instead, he encouraged the players loudly. They all know that Paderborn lost the game today because their key captain was injured and unable to participate in the game. This group of hard-working players should be encouraged rather than venting their emotions at them. In the 16th round of the Bundesliga 2, Paderborn lost to Red Bull Leipzig. The media naturally reported this matter. After all, the strongest dark horse team this season ended their glorious record of unbeaten for 13 rounds. After the game, Gerald did not choose to give the team a break, but called them to the locker room the next day. Review of yesterday's game against RB Leipzig. Among them, naturally the central defenders who replaced Hunemeyer yesterday received the most abuse from Gerald. In this way, after Gerald's reprimand, all the players in the club entered into intense training again. No one wants to lose the game again because of poor condition. A week later, on December 5th, the 17th round of the Bundesliga 2 quietly arrived. Paderborn once again came to Frankfurt, the 5th largest city in Germany. Their opponent in this game was FSV Frankfurt Football Club, also located in Frankfurt. Although the names of the teams are somewhat similar, they have nothing to do with Eintracht Frankfurt, which is currently in the Bundesliga. They are two independent football clubs, of course, because they are in the same city. These two clubs can be regarded as mortal enemies, but FSV Frankfurt has been suppressed by Frankfurt and lives in the shadow of the powerful Frankfurt. Therefore, facing Paderborn, who had just defeated Frankfurt in the Deutsche Cup, FSV Frankfurt very much hopes to defeat or draw with Paderborn to prove that it is not much worse than Frankfurt. This is just a little thought from the head coach of FSV Frankfurt, but if Paderborn's SYNOPSIS was not injured and in good condition, FSV Frankfurt's head coach would never dare to have such thoughts in his mind this season. FSV Frankfurt's performance is also very poor. At the beginning of the season, like Paderborn, it was a relegation team, and it left the bottom of the Bundesliga rankings in the middle, but the difference is that Paderborn's unbeaten record was interrupted only when they faced the powerful Red Bull Leipzig in their last game. However, FSV Frankfurt's status has been ups and downs. Although it is not ranked in the relegation zone, the score is not much higher than the bottom few teams in this case. No matter what the reason is, the head coach of FSV Frankfurt is crazy about instilling the concept of winning into the players. It can be said that the players of FSV Frankfurt are very motivated, and the 17th round of the Bundesliga league will be extremely fierce. Chapter 137. The 17th round is over and the turn is about to begin. Frankfurt Volksbahnhof. This small stadium, which can accommodate 12,000 people, was packed with seats. Even many Frankfurt fans, after being extremely disappointed with the home team, came to watch this game between their rivals in the same city to see what kind of game they would perform against the Dark Pony team Paderborn. After the game started, the FSV Frankfurt players kicked off the ball with high spirits and launched an attack facing Paderborn, whose defensive capabilities were now halved. The FSV head coach used the tactics of Red Bull Leipzig and stepped forward to implement high pressure since there is no way to stop the German second division striker Feng, who is currently the captain of Paderborn. Let go and start playing against them. This tactic was very successful at the beginning. In the 21st minute of the game, FSV Frankfurt seized the opportunity and scored the first goal, breaking through Paderborn's goal and leading 1-0. The coaching area in Paderborn at this moment, head coach Gerald had a dark face and showed an expression of despair towards the center-back who replaced SYNOPSIS in the starting lineup. He secretly swore in his heart that while waiting for the winter window, he would dig out a few talented young defenders and train them carefully, just in case they were needed afterwards. The fierce confrontation on the field continued. It can be seen that the players of FSV Frankfurt are really eager to win this game to prove themselves, and they sprint tirelessly on the court under such circumstances. Paderborn's goal soon fell again, and the game reached a scene that many fans could not believe, 2-0. Even the fans of FSV Frankfurt couldn't believe that their own players could take the lead by 2 goals at home. The team they faced was the Dark Horse team ranked second in the German second division. There is no way. Gerald seems to know it. Under the current situation in Paderborn, many teams know how to play Paderborn originally. The striker's ability to finish was poor and he was unable to score goals. Now, the defense has serious problems and cannot prevent the opponent's fierce and fast attack in the second half. Gerald realized the problem and replaced winger Sagrick. Among the many players who could play as central defender, he chose a short general and replaced him. Changed the formation to 5-3-2. Because of this change, Paderborn players finally had a better time in the second half. With a numerical advantage in the backcourt, they could barely stop FSV Frankfurt's offensive. Feng can also get several good opportunities to quickly counterattack. In terms of grasping opportunities, it can be said that Feng is definitely one of the best in the Bundesliga too. He can rely on his superb foot skills to mess up the opponent's defense by himself, and if nothing else, there is a high probability of scoring the ball in this way. Within the 45 minutes of the second half, Feng took advantage of the opportunity of a quick counterattack, danced in the FSV defense, and scored 2 goals in a row. This fierce game also became evenly matched after Paderborn's adjustments in the second half. However, FSV Frankfurt is not as strong as RB Leipzig after all. If they copy the tactics, they will not be able to defeat Paderborn like RB Leipzig in the end. The score of the game stopped at 2-2. Feng's excellent shot in stoppage time could have ended the game, but was unexpectedly blocked by the informed FSV Frankfurt goalkeeper. Although FSV Frankfurt only received a draw in the end, this result was very satisfying for them. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. Not only did they get a point in the Bundesliga too, but they even tied with Paderborn, who beat Eintracht Frankfurt in the Deutsche Cup. In the future, when they argue with their rival Eintracht Frankfurt, this result will be an excuse that Eintracht Frankfurt cannot defend. Moreover, maybe FSV Frankfurt can perform slightly better in the remaining second half of the game. Maybe. they can successfully avoid relegation in the Bundesliga too, and have an exciting derby battle with their city rival Eintracht Frankfurt in the Bundesliga 2 next season. As for Paderborn, Gerald could barely accept it. At the very least, I wasn't in poor form, kept losing games, and even got a point among the top 3 teams in the Bundesliga 2. Leipzig, Red Bull, Paderborn, and Freiburg are still very tight on points. If Paderborn faces consecutive defeats at this time, it is really possible that Paderborn will fall out of the top 3. In that case, Paderborn's dream of winning the Bundesliga championship and even reaching the first division this season will only become further away after the 17th round. Paderborn only has 2 league games left to play this year. They were the away game against Bochum on December 12, and the final game against Dusseldorf at home on December 22. In these 2 games, Bochum was still a relatively difficult team after all. Among Bochum, there is another player who ranks among the top scorers, Trossen. He has now scored 16 goals in 16 rounds of the Bundesliga 2, which is on par with Freiburg's Petersen if Feng hadn't emerged this season. There's a high probability that the top scorer in Bundesliga 2 this season would be one of them, but now, the 2 of them can only be left behind by Feng's brilliant record of 23 goals in 16 rounds. On this day, everyone in Paderborn Football Club was busy in a hurry under the leadership of Feng, the interim captain. The players trained hard on the green field. Head coach Gerald is leading Bradrick to watch Bochum's recent game videos and think about the starting lineup and roster for the next game. At present, Paderborn's defensive problems are very serious. They are discussing whether to temporarily change to a 5-3-2 formation before Hunemeyer returns to the team. Just when Gerald and Bradrick were having a heated discussion, a phone call interrupted their discussion. Gerald suddenly looked unhappy, feeling that someone had interrupted his work at this time, but when he picked up the phone and saw that it was the chairman of Paderborn, he controlled his emotions and just answered the phone. "Mr. Chairman, what do you want from me?" A strong middle-aged male voice came from the other side of the phone. "That's right, the winter window is coming soon. The team management has already discussed the details of Feng's contract. You can come over soon, take him over, and then prepare to start negotiations with Feng. As for buying Feng out from Freiburg, you don't need to do it, I have already arranged the people." Hearing this, Gerald's uncomfortable expression immediately disappeared. The matter of buying out Feng from Freiburg has already been negotiated with the Paderborn management, but due to the long transfer period, it has almost never been implemented at present. With less than a month left, it is indeed time to start negotiations. "Okay, Mr. Chairman, I will go to your office to see you in a moment. I have something to discuss with you, by the way." Chapter 138. Insufficient budget. Encounter Bochum again. "Mr. Chairman, I'm here." After knocking on the door, Gerald came in and sat across from Chairman Paderborn's desk. "This is about the contract assumptions for player Feng after he's bought out. The club's management has already discussed clearly the salary budget," Chairman Paderborn said, handing a folder to Gerald in front of him. He spoke in a very pleasant tone. "When the time comes, when you negotiate with Feng's agent Mino Raiola, just try not to exceed this budget. It can be seen that because it only costs €2 million from Freiburg, it is completely a beautiful deal." A 17-year-old talented forward who has just started to become the top scorer in the Bundesliga 2. Such an achievement could easily be sold to a wealthy football club for tens of millions of euros. But Paderborn only spent €2 million. Chairman Paderborn was satisfied with this deal and naturally did not deduct too much from Feng's salary. The salary range given was very excellent, and a large signing fee was even considered for Feng. As long as the vampire Raiola doesn't go too far, the management of the Paderborn team can easily accept it. After taking the document, Gerald took a brief look at it. After finding that there was no big problem with the salary, he closed the document, then looked at the chairman and said, "By the way, Mr. Chairman, I have one more thing to discuss with you this time." Chairman Paderborn nodded, picked up the coffee on the table and drank it, and motioned for Gerald to continue. "Go down. The current situation of the team is not very optimistic. You should also know the importance of Captain Hunemeyer and the team. Due to Hunemeyer's absence in recent games, the team does not have a suitable central defender. Being able to come on as a substitute will greatly weaken the team's defensive ability. It has seriously affected the team's normal tactical configuration, so I think, if the team's transfer budget during the winter window is enough, try to buy a few players. Young defensive players, train them up so that Hunemeyer will not return to the team in the second half of the game." After patiently listening to Gerald's words, Chairman Paderborn fell into a brief thought. After about a few seconds, he sighed and said with some regret, Gerald, I know everything you are saying so far. But you also know that the club does not have much transfer budget during the winter window. Every year, in this transfer period, we have to sign Feng players. It can be said that the club's transfer budget has been exhausted. As he said that, Chairman Paderborn's expression became a little sad, as if he didn't want to mention these things. Furthermore, you should also know that the family behind Paderborn Football Club can only be regarded as qualified businessmen in the final analysis. They only care about the benefits that the team can bring. Now, Feng, an outstanding player, has once you join, it's impossible for them to continue to invest more money to support you in bringing in players. I can't help you with your proposal. You can only rely on yourself. Paderborn, a small-town football club. The boss behind it is a local family in Paderborn. They are very powerful and involved in almost every local industry in Paderborn, so their funds are quite sufficient. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. However, their investment in the football club can only be said to be a strategic investment, and they do not really love football. It is impossible for them to spend a large amount of money every year to invest in football club signings, and to be honest, a German second division football club is not very profitable. Most of its income comes from selling players. Therefore, their decision to sign Feng directly was based on their future economic value. For this reason, it is not a problem that they are willing to offer Feng the maximum salary of Paderborn club. Gerald's eyes were a little complicated when he learned the news. He is a pure football head coach. He can think of introducing new players for the better development of the team in the future, but he has not considered the economic situation behind the club. But now, after Chairman Paderborn told him these things, he also knows that it is almost impossible to introduce too many young players during this winter window. We can only pray that when signing Feng, we can negotiate a lower price. But Feng's agent is a well-known vampire in the football circle. Trying to lower the price in his hands is nothing more than wishful thinking. Afterwards, Gerald did not stay in the office. Instead, he returned to his office and called the staff responsible for contract negotiations to communicate with Raiola. Because Paderborn still had 2 league rounds to play recently, he could not concentrate on the transfer of Feng, but later, he still had to attend the final negotiation with Raiola. Time passes slowly. It has entered December, the weather is getting colder, and the players who train daily have put on long-sleeved training clothes. However, this cannot stop Paderborn players from sweating heartily on the training ground under the leadership of Feng. While the players are training hard, the last 2 Bundesliga games of 2015 are slowly approaching according to the regulations of the German Football Association. There are 18 teams in the Bundesliga. 2 teams play 2 games in each league, with a total of 34 games in a season. Therefore, it stands to reason that after the 17 rounds, Paderborn has already played against many German second division teams. Starting from the subsequent 18th round, Paderborn will once again compete with other teams. The first thing to come was Bochum, the strong German second division team that was defeated by Paderborn in the 4th round on November 12, outside the Ruhrstadion in Bochum, North Rhine-Westphalia, Germany. The cold weather did not affect the fans' enthusiasm for watching the game. There were still countless fans outside the stadium, cheering enthusiastically for their home team. Paderborn, led by Gerald, came to the Ruhrstadion early for warm-up training. Bochum head coach Butcher watched the players from both sides training from the sidelines, but his fiery eyes were still on Paderborn's number 23 player. After waiting for a moment, Butcher walked over to shake hands with Gerald and exchange a few words, but Gerald's tone was a little cold. After all, facing the strong team Bochum in this game, their chances of winning were not very good. Seeing that Gerald ignored him, Butcher didn't say anything. Instead, he smiled and said hello, and walked towards Feng, who is replenishing water on the side. Chapter 139 is halfway through. Formal buyout application. Seeing Butcher walking towards Feng, a look of contempt appeared on Gerald's face. No need to think too much. Butcher took the initiative to approach Feng at this time, with only one purpose, that was to throw an olive branch to Feng and lure him to join Bochum. However, Butcher didn't know that the loan contract signed by Feng with Paderborn at Freiburg included a buyout clause. In other words, during this winter window, as long as Paderborn and Feng have a harmonious negotiation, he can only transfer to Paderborn, and other German second division teams will have no chance at all. Hello, Mr. Feng. I am Bochum coach Butcher. Coming to Feng, Butcher extended his right hand in a gentlemanly manner. Hello, Mr. Butcher. Feng simply shook hands with Butcher, without any other unnecessary expressions on his face. Nice to meet you. I have actually been paying attention to Mr. Feng for a long time. I admire your ability and playing style very much. I wonder if you have decided on your destination during the winter window, Butcher said, with a smile on his face. With a confident smile, I believe you are not willing to stay in Freiburg, right? After all, they have loaned you to other teams. I don't know, are you willing to stay in Freiburg during the winter window, join Bochum Football Club? If you are willing, I will definitely apply for the highest salary from the chairman of Bochum for you. And after you come, you and Trode will fly together. I believe that there will be people who enter the Bundesliga in the future. A place for him. Butcher wanted to say something more to lure Feng into joining Bochum. Feng could tell from his words that Freiburg had not announced it yet. Feng's loan to Paderborn had already come with a preemptive buyout clause, otherwise, Butcher would not be here to waste his breath, but Feng didn't want to continue listening and interrupted him directly. Mr. Butcher, I'm sorry, I have decided to join Paderborn during the winter window. Besides, Bochum is better than Paderborn. It seems that there are not many opportunities to break into the Bundesliga this season, so I will not consider Bochum Football Club. After saying this, Feng turned around without hesitation and put down the water glass in his hand, and then moved towards the Bochum Football Club again. Run on the football field and do intense warm-up training. Butcher was left alone, frozen in place with some embarrassment at present. Bochum's only advantage over Paderborn is that it is richer than Paderborn, but Feng didn't like this at all. He actually integrated into the small-town football team of Paderborn and was attracted by Paderborn's strong football charm. It is impossible to leave Paderborn this season. He wants to fight for the fans who love Paderborn so much, and they win a long-awaited championship. This is the goal Feng pursues, not those high salaries. Soon, this long-awaited game officially began. Paderborn's head coach Gerald used a 5-back formation in his first official start. Butcher's side still use their usual 4-4-2 formation to press Paderborn high nowadays. Any head coach who has paid attention to Paderborn's games after Hunemeyer was injured will use a high press to beat Paderborn. It doesn't matter what the situation of your own team's defense is. As long as you can break through Paderborn's defense and score a goal, because they knew very well that their defense line would not be able to defend at all due to the breakthrough of Feng, Paderborn's number 23 player. Moreover, Bochum also has Trode, who is very capable of scoring goals, so he may not necessarily lose the game in this way. The pace of the game was very fast, and both sides fought fiercely for the ball. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. Bochum coach Butcher even vented all the embarrassment he suffered from Feng on Paderborn's goal. He roared loudly on the sidelines, reminding the Bochum players to organize the correct attack and bombard Paderborn's goal. He wanted to use this method to let Feng know how stupid his judgment was in the end. The result of this game was also acceptable to the head coaches of both teams. Paderborn shook hands at home and Bochum, and the two sides drew 3-3. Feng scored twice and was still in hot form. It's a pity that Paderborn's defense failed to stop Bochum's bombardment, but I have to say that the Bochum team they faced this time had Trode, who was very fierce. He had many shooting opportunities. If Paderborn had not had too many people in the backcourt, he would have only scored 2 goals for Paderborn. It is already very good to continue to remain undefeated. All that remains is to wait for Hunemeyer to recover soon and help the team score more points in the second half. For Bochum, they were defeated by Paderborn in the 4th round, but this time they were able to suppress Paderborn and get a draw, which is still very good. It's just a pity that revenge was not successful, and coach Butcher still had a bad breath after the game. Gerald continued to study the temporary replacement lineup and optimize some personnel configurations. On December 22nd, in the home game against Dusseldorf, with a score of 2-1, they successfully ushered in Hunemeyer's first win after injury. Feng scored twice again, and both Purlikovic and Vidra received an assist. Both of them have now accepted the current situation of the Paderborn team and are happily following Feng's, but it can be said that Paderborn's victory brought a successful end to the first half of the season. The next day, after finishing the first half of the race, Paderborn's coaching staff has also begun to focus entirely on transfer matters during the winter window, and the buyout clause for Feng was officially sent to Freiburg club soon after. Among the Freiburg club's head coach Strachey and a group of assistant coaches were also gathered in the head coach's office at this moment. Their faces extremely gloomy. Paderborn is still unwilling to care about the relationship between the clubs and insists on buying out Feng. Strachey asked the others, with strong regret and annoyance in his tone. Yes, we have just received the facts of Paderborn's buyout application. The assistant coach in charge of transfer affairs curled his lips and nodded, responding with some dissatisfaction regarding Feng. It was indeed the responsibility of head coach Strachey to loan Feng out. However, It has to be said that the original willingness to loan Su Feng to Paderborn was entirely based on the friendship between the two clubs. In desperation, for the immediate benefit, he signed a preemptive buyout clause with Paderborn, but now Paderborn's approach seems to disregard the friendship between the clubs. However, before Strachey could recover from his grief and anger, the assistant coach who had just spoken continued, Mr. Strachey, we not only received transfer applications from Paderborn, but also from other teams. As he said that, he put the faxes in his hand on his desk. Chapter 140. Decision, Freiburg's fig leaf transfer requests from other teams? Suddenly, Strachey's heart trembled, and a bad feeling suddenly surged into his heart. He suppressed the anxiety in his heart, picked up a few fax documents, and began to read them. As soon as he saw the first copy, Strachey felt like his heart was exploding. This transfer application fax was sent by the Bundesliga giant Dortmund. The content was relatively short and concise. It was intended to pay €10 million to buy the Chinese young player Su Feng. €10 million. Strachey took a deep breath and felt his heart bleeding. This €10 million is the offer put forward by the Bundesliga giant Dortmund. It is already so high. What about other Premier League giants? I'm afraid it will be higher, right? Strachey controlled his facial expression and continued to turn to the second page. What catches the eye is the badge of the Premier League king, the Red Devils Manchester United Football Club, and this fax requesting a transfer is even more exciting. Manchester United Football Club hopes that Freiburg will end Su Feng's loan career at Paderborn during the winter window, and is willing to trade Su Feng for €15 million. €15 million. Nowadays, the transfer fees in the 5 major leagues are rising day by day, but the price of €15 million is used to buy a young player. This is a wealthy club. How much trust does it have in the player Su Feng? €15 million is indeed not very high, but this price can almost be used by teams in the middle and lower reaches of the Bundesliga to pick players at will. Back then, when Freiburg starting center, General Peterson, transferred from Bundesliga Werder Bremen to Freiburg, the transfer fee was less than €5 million. After such a comparison, you can understand how outrageous the quotations offered by other wealthy clubs for young player Su Feng are, right? After reading Manchester United's offer, Strachey's hands were trembling slightly and he didn't even dare to continue reading. If Su Feng had been kept in the team, he could have been loaned out to any of the 5 major leagues for a few seasons. I'm afraid it will be no problem at all if we sell €20 to €30 million by then, right? However, Strachey himself rejected Su Feng as a young player because of some problems with his playing style. Then he cared about a small profit, so he signed a preemptive buyout clause with Paderborn. This is an extremely stupid thing, but now, is there any chance? Absolutely not. Strachey and Freiburg Football Club could only watch helplessly as Su Feng was handed over to Paderborn for €2 million. This is tantamount to giving Paderborn a gift package worth tens of millions of euros. Strachey slumped in his seat, feeling that the sky was dark and the road in front of him was confused. The other assistant sitting next to him wanted to give Strachey a good scolding after hearing the news. However, due to the relationship between superiors and subordinates, they had no choice but to give up. But this did not affect their silent complaints in their hearts. To be honest, this matter had nothing to do with them, because the original decision to loan Su Feng out was entirely made by Strachey. They are all a little afraid now that Strachey's future will be affected by this incident. After a long while, Strachey slowly exhaled a breath of turbid air, finally relieved from the bad state just now. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. He casually flipped through the remaining transfer faxes in his hand while gritting his teeth and speaking to the other assistant coaches. This matter, it is indeed a matter of my judgment. I want to loan Su Feng out. It has nothing to do with you. After other assistant coaches heard what Strachey said, they felt relieved immediately, but they couldn't just nod and agree so directly. Instead, he hypocritically said that he would help Strachey take the responsibility. Strachey ignored them and continued after a moment of silence, when the time comes, I will personally go to Mr. Chairman to explain the situation. I think the decision to loan Su Feng to Paderborn was also for the sake of the chairman, therefore, there will be nothing. It's a big problem. When Strachey said these words, his eyes looked up at the ceiling unconsciously, obviously feeling a little unconfident. He had already anticipated in his mind that he would receive a series of punishments from the club subsequently. After the matter was dealt with, Strachey arranged for the team's assistant coach to be responsible for transfer matters, directly start contacting Paderborn and complete all subsequent transfer procedures for Su Feng. When the time comes, you should all be stricter. At this point, Strachey's eyes suddenly became sharp and he scanned everyone in the office fiercely. We sold Su Feng to Paderborn because of the club friendship between us, It's not because of the preemptive buyout clause. Can you understand what I mean? The other assistant coaches nodded to express their understanding. This is actually very simple. Strachey wants to save the last shred of dignity for Freiburg and himself, and to avoid being abused by Freiburg fans. If word of this spreads, it will also give Freiburg a causal made a move and cared about the ease between clubs rather than the good image of money. But can his wishful thinking be fulfilled satisfactorily? Obviously the probability is not very high. Afterwards, the other assistant coaches left this extremely depressing place one after another and went out to breathe fresh air. Left alone, Strachey sat slumped in his office chair in dead silence. The next day, Dortmund, Germany. In the head coach's office of Borussia Dortmund Football Club, young head coach Tuchel couldn't believe it when he received the fax document just sent from Freiburg. Those old guys from the Freiburg management will give Feng €2 million to Paderborn because they care about their friendship with Paderborn. Tuchel couldn't help but sneered a few times sound, murmuring to himself among the faxed documents sent by Freiburg. It rejected Dortmund's offer of €10 million and instead accepted €2 million from other teams. Anyone who is not a fool knows how to choose, but Freiburg acted as the stupid fool. Preferring to lose at least €8 million to maintain relationships with other clubs, Tuchel simply did not believe that such a thing would happen. The clubs are just good business friends at best. Could there be any brother teams that could really do something worth nearly €10 million? This is unlikely, right? The fact was as Tuchel expected. In the afternoon, many head coaches whose offers for Feng were rejected looked confused. Several pieces of news about Feng's transfer to Paderborn immediately exploded in major European football forums. Chapter 141. Exposed. Halfway over the truth behind the famous 17-year-old Chinese youngster, but Freiburg insisted on selling him for only €2 million. Shocked. Freiburg sold youngster Feng to Paderborn for €2 million. This is actually the reason. Freiburg coach Stretch's stupid operation may cause Freiburg to lose tens of millions of euros. I don't know who exposed the preemptive buyout clause between Freiburg and Paderborn regarding the transfer of Feng, and the target of the attack is directed at head coach Strachey. It can be said that the last fig leaf between Freiburg and Strachey has been torn away. Immediately, fans and friends who have been active in football forums for a long time noticed these posts and commented below, making these posts a hot search. I'm laughing so hard. Is Freiburg coach Stretch a money-giving boy? How stupid a person must be to agree to sign a €2 million buyout clause for Feng. I can think of Strachey's expression now, how uncomfortable it will be. Ho ha ho ha, let me tell you a joke. Freiburg sold its talented youngster for €2 million to Paderborn. Well, as a result, Paderborn tied with Freiburg with this young player. And it is very likely that he will miss the Bundesliga championship this season. Is the head coach of a team that is the favorite to win the Bundesliga championship only have this level? I still want to win the championship. I wonder what Strachey will think if Paderborn wins the championship this season. Countless fans and friends stood up to ridicule Strachey. Amazing operation. I just don't know what the Freiburg fans and friends will think when they see these posts. Freiburg fans who didn't know the truth originally thought that a genius monster appeared in the team's youth training. After this season's experience in Paderborn is over, you can return to Freiburg and follow the team to compete in the Bundesliga too. But who knew it would change hands? Freiburg actually gave him Paderborn during the winter window. Moreover, it is still a shameful €2 million. This is completely equivalent to giving it away for free. Unable to accept the reality, Freiburg fans turned into haters on the forum and vented their anger towards Freiburg head coach Stretch. What kind of talent is this Strachey? €2 million to give away the Bundesliga top scorer? If not, get out. I have long disliked this Strachey. Why did he lead Freiburg into the Bundesliga? Did he fall down? If his ability is not good enough, just go and coach the echelon. No, such a coach with no vision can coach the echelon? Isn't that misleading people? I think it's better to fire him quickly and let him go. Harm other teams. Why are you forcing the coach? He's totally the money-giving boy from Freiburg. Stretch, the money-giving boy, is out of class. Thanks to me, I've been a fan of Feng for half a season. It turns out that the team has sent him out a long time ago. Damn Strachey, his brain is flooded. There is no doubt that Strachey used his amazing operation to make the Fort fans couldn't accept it. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. He cursed loudly in the comment area, earning him the title of a money-giving boy. Moreover, amid the scolding of Freiburg fans, Strachey's coaching position is already somewhat in jeopardy. In any case, the Freiburg club did this very stupid thing. The chairman of Freiburg is definitely not willing to take the blame. So the head coach Strachey can only resist everything tragic. Strachey not only missed out on the talented player Su Feng, but also faced the risk of losing his job. It can be said that with this kind of luck, even drinking water can clog your teeth under constant pressure from Freiburg fans. It didn't take long for the Freiburg club to announce that it had given Strachey a serious warning and was demoted to the assistant coach of the first team. Although Strachey has not been actively fired for the time being, Freiburg's purpose is obvious. If I don't want to take the initiative to fire you and pay you corresponding liquidated damages, then I will force you to resign yourself. If you are unwilling to resign voluntarily, then you can stay as an assistant coach and reflect on yourself as for who should take over as the next coach of Freiburg. There were different opinions for a while, and the Freiburg club did not give a definite answer. Freiburg fans, while criticizing Strach, began to discuss who the head coach of the Bundesliga team will be in the second half of this season. But to be honest, at this time, there doesn't seem to be any good head coaching options. The eyes returned to the Paderborn training base. Su Feng naturally knew that the recent turmoil in European football was caused by him, but Su Feng also kept his attitude and did not make any comments even if Strachey was ridiculed and reviled by all the fans and lost his job as first-team head coach. To be honest, it had nothing to do with him when he was in the Freiburg youth training camp. He also had very good friends for a while, and he wanted to join the first team together and win glory for the team. It can only be said that he had bad luck. After being denied by head coach Strachey for some reasons, he was loaned to Paderborn in the end. Su Feng was bought out by Paderborn. Therefore, Strachey's tragedy had nothing to do with him, and he could only pity him for 3 seconds on a humanitarian basis. After that, the Paderborn club continued to maintain a normal training schedule, preparing to wait for the official holiday. After all the team games in the first half of the Bundesliga 2 are over during this period, Su Feng's agent Raiola also came to Paderborn from Italy to discuss Su Feng's salary with relevant club personnel when the first half of the Bundesliga league officially ended. The Bundesliga Football Association officials also summarized the team results in the first half on the official website, and rewarded the players of each team who performed well in the first half. There is no doubt that Su Feng, with 27 goals in the half, beat the others and ascended to the throne of the top scorer in the half. It's just a pity that the Bundesliga Football Association officially did not prepare any other substantial rewards, such as trophies, but only announced the awards on the official website more than 10 days later. 2015 officially ended and a new day ushered in. All Paderborn players have taken the holidays and returned to their hometowns early to spend Christmas with their families. It's just that Su Feng hasn't gone back yet, because he has a very meaningful and important event on January 1st. 2016, that is the official signing ceremony with Paderborn. Chapter 142. Officially signed the contract and returned to China during the holidays. 10 o'clock in the morning, in the press conference room of the Paderborn Training Center. At this moment, this small but exquisitely decorated room was already packed with various German sports media. As early as yesterday, Paderborn's official website had announced that the signing ceremony with Su Feng would be broadcast live this morning. Although many fans and friends have already known about this in advance, when the signing ceremony is held, their inner emotions will still burst out after the live broadcast started. Paderborn's head coach Gerald soon came out with a bright face after a brief introduction to the camera. The most critical moment of the signing ceremony came. Now, please give me a round of applause. Paderborn's new player, Mr. Su Feng, is entering. The reporters at the scene, after Gerald finished speaking, immediately turned the camera lens to the side door under the focus of countless cameras. Su Feng soon walked out of the door. He walked briskly, with a satisfied smile on his face. Su Feng had never experienced this scene before. He originally thought that because he had seen pigs running on his mobile phone, he would be able to stay calm when signing the contract. However, judging from his current state, he was unable to control his excitement. However, it's okay. After all, he is still a 17-year-old body at this moment. It was the first time in my life to experience such a grand signing ceremony, and it was normal for me to be very excited. Gerald made a few more brief statements before placing the two contracts signed by Chairman Paderborn in front of Su Feng regarding this contract. Su Feng was naturally informed of the specific details by Raiola in advance. It can be said that Raiola showed his excellent strength during the negotiation between Su Feng and Raiola, because Paderborn and Su Feng have reached a verbal agreement and are willing to transfer to Paderborn. However, judging from Paderborn's current economic situation, it is simply impossible to give Su Feng the highest salary level in Germany. But with Su Feng's current strength, if his salary is too low, it won't be worthy of his abilities. He is now the absolute core of Paderborn. Therefore, after negotiations between Paderborn and Raiola, Paderborn club decided to pay Su Feng a weekly salary of 25,000 euros, and there is a signing fee of 1.5 million euros and a bonus of 500,000 euros for winning the German Cup. This kind of salary is already unique for the 17-year-old Su Feng. Moreover, there is no doubt that this weekly salary is the highest salary among Paderborn players. There is no way Paderborn can no longer do without Su Feng, the core of the team. They really need Su Feng's scoring ability on the front line. After Su Feng signed, he shook hands with Gerald enthusiastically and handed the contract to him. Mr. Su Feng, welcome to Paderborn Football Club. After doing all this, Gerald handed a brand new commemorative number 23 jersey to Su Feng, and the two of them joined hands. Hold it to take photos from reporters. In fact, Paderborn intended to give the vacant number 9 jersey to Su Feng, but since the current Bundesliga league has not ended yet, the Bundesliga Football Association has relevant restrictions. Therefore, it is not possible to directly let Su Feng wear the number 9 jersey that represents the absolute core of the team during the winter window. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels, but Su Feng was not dissatisfied about this matter. After all, Paderborn's 23 jersey now has a certain reputation in German football, and he has also become a young star in Germany. Happy cooperation. Boy, Gerald smiled warmly and shook hands with Su Feng again. Happy cooperation. Su Feng smiled and stretched out his hand, shook Gerald's hand, then took the jersey completely into his hand, enjoying the focus of many cameras. At this point, the transfer officially came to an end. Su Feng officially joined Paderborn and will continue to wear the number 23 jersey to play for Paderborn in the second half of the season. His identity is no longer a lone player from Freiburg, but a regular soldier. After completing these signing processes, Su Feng and Gerald sat down and began to accept questions and interviews from journalists. About half an hour later, this much anticipated signing ceremony came to a perfect end. After all this was over, Su Feng was officially on vacation. During the winter break in the next month, he no longer had to stay in Paderborn during this month's holiday. He can arrange it freely and conduct his own special training, of course. In addition to this, he also has to rush back to China to celebrate this memorable moment with his family. At the same time, you should also spend more time with your parents during this period. Perhaps the most solemn event of the year in the West is Christmas, but not in China. China has its own traditional festival, the Spring Festival. However, the Chinese Lunar New Year in 2016 will be on February 8th. According to the second half of the Bundesliga 2-match schedule, Su Feng will return to the team at this time and usher in the Bundesliga second place on New Year's Eve, the day before. 10 rounds of competition in the next few days. Su Feng did not stay in Paderborn for too long. After hurriedly packing up his things, he returned to Hulschia's home. In this life, of course, he has a family. Although he has traveled back in time to the original owner, he has not met the original owner's parents so far. But now that he has traveled through time and inherited the memory of the original owner, the feelings buried in his mind are still very strong. He also needs to continue to help the original owner and complete his unfulfilled filial duty. Although the specific closing time of the winter windows of most European leagues is somewhat different, they almost all end on February 1st. During this period, the coaching staff of all teams can be said to be the busiest. They have to compete with other teams for players worth recruiting. Countless wealthy teams will also extend their olive branch to those talented players at this time and compete with other teams. Su Feng will only stay at home for nearly a month during the winter window period. He will return to Paderborn the day after the winter window period ends. Follow the team as they prepare for the second half of the Bundesliga 2, and during the time when Su Feng returned to China, the major football news media in China naturally made relevant reports on Su Feng, a player who achieved excellent results in the middle of the game. Fans and friends from China are also expressing their opinions in the comments. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 143. The Influence of Stars. The winter break is over. I never thought that one day a Chinese player could actually become a star in the European League. This is all so unreal. I feel that it won't be long before China can stand up in the sport of football. You are so talented, you must not return to the Chinese Super League. Play hard in Europe, join a wealthy team in the future, and compete for the Champions League championship. In the future, I can also see, have Chinese players won the Champions League trophy? Think about it. My blood is boiling. It seems that it's not that Chinese people can't play football, It's just that talented children have not been discovered and they are all working hard to study. In this way, Su Feng's popularity in China, rising to a new level again. There are even many self-media bloggers who gained millions of followers overnight because they edited the wonderful performance of Su Feng in the Bundesliga league. The Chinese people who saw these videos were surprised to find that Chinese players could also perform such wonderful moves: a long-distance run to score a goal, a rainbow pass, a Marseille spin, or a volley are all possible. This invisibly set off a football craze in China. Many children who watched Su Feng's videos were deeply impressed by his wonderful performance, which rekindled the football dream buried in their hearts. Football fields everywhere are no longer abandoned as places for people to walk. Many teenagers have begun to sweat happily on the football fields. This is the impact of a star in a sport on his country's sports. I think back then, when there was a basketball craze in China, a big reason was the emergence of a world-class star, Yao Ming, and now, China has set off a wave of football craze. Even many new media bloggers who never paid attention to football began to record some videos about football because of the attraction of traffic. This not only brings traffic to bloggers, but also invisibly attracts more people to love football. Back at home in Huaxia, Su Feng did not neglect daily training in addition to resting and spending time with his family every day before he returned to China. He carefully analyzed the various abilities of his current body. In the future, there is a high probability that he will not be able to develop into an all-around player after the end of this season's Bundesliga 2. His comprehensive rating of various values will be close to 80. In this case, he will be able to qualify as a starting forward in the 5 major leagues. However, the most obvious gap between the 5 major leagues and the Bundesliga 2 is physical confrontation. Su Feng was still 17 years old. Although he had outstanding height, his fighting ability was still not as good as that of those battle-hardened veterans. If you want to gain an advantage in physical confrontation, you must build muscle, lift your weight, and have a strong body. Therefore, during the winter break, Su Feng was extremely self-disciplined and completed necessary training every day. At the same time, he ate according to the muscle-building diet and tried his best to improve the body's resistance. Of course, while training, Su Feng will not forget his special training. In my hometown, it can only be said that places like nightclubs and bars are indispensable. The winter in China was very cold, and Su Feng had already put on a cotton padded jacket early. But when entering and leaving entertainment venues such as nightclubs and bars, he can always find a group of people who are different from ordinary people. That is, the beauties in entertainment venues. No matter how cold the weather is, they can still wear short skirts and show off their long and dazzling legs. As for these, Su Feng could only say that they were very good. At least they were a feast for the eyes. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. Just like that, Su Feng's vacation ended soon after saying goodbye to his parents. He got on the plane to Germany again, opened the personal attribute panel. On the way, Su Feng, who closed his eyes to rest, checked his current attributes as usual before falling asleep. Soon, a white panel appeared in his mind. Name: Su Feng, age 17 years old, height 187 centimeters, shooting ability 76, long shot 75, volley 82, header 73, arc 76, penalty kick 71, technical ability 75, ball sense 77, dribbling 80, ball control 74, short passing 74, long passing 70, physical ability 73, strength 73, speed 77, coordination 73, reaction 78, physical fitness 62, comprehensive evaluation 75, current coolness value 70. After hard training in recent months, Su Feng's comprehensive evaluation has reached 75 points. It is only 5 points away from the starting level of the 5 major leagues. However, although the gap seems small, other professional players, if they have good talent, may still need several years of training, but with the support of the system. If Su Feng can stabilize the dual training in the next period of time, his comprehensive evaluation will be able to exceed 80 points before the start of next season at the latest. Stylish system. Although the attribute improvement given to Su Feng every day is only a pitiful 0.1, this attribute bonus does not affect the upper limit of the player's talent potential. In other words, if other players have no potential, they may not be able to get started with a skill for a lifetime. But as time goes by, Su Feng can easily reach a perfect score of 100. Of course, this ease means that there is no need to sweat hard on the court, but the time spent is still very long. Moreover, because Su Feng had the blessing of Van Persie's star volleying skills, he did not do much special training on volleys, but every time he uses his star skills, he can gain a lot of insights. This also resulted in his volley attribute rising rapidly and already breaking through the 80 mark. In addition, What surprised Su Feng the most was that his current sharpness value had accumulated to 70 points. There are not many games left before the 5 consecutive draws will definitely explode the Black Star skill by the time the league reaches the 30th round. You will definitely be able to draw continuously. This is of course thanks to Paderborn's head coach Gerald. In daily training, he still cares very much about the game status of other players except for Vidra, Percivac, who are very suitable for Su Feng, and team captain Hunemir. Almost all other players competed for positions and came under Gerald's radar through daily training matches. This results in Paderborn having very few daily training matches. This allowed Su Feng to obtain a lot of cool points very easily. Soon, Su Feng took a plane to Berlin, the capital of Germany, and then transferred to Paderborn, a city in North Rhine-Westphalia. After learning that Su Feng had returned to Paderborn, Gerald took Broderick Wing to a banquet for Su Feng in a famous local hotel to welcome him. Su Feng did not reject the two people's kindness. "Feng, I feel like you've gotten a lot stronger." This was Gerald's first words after seeing Su Feng. "Ha ha ha, yes Mr. Gerald. During the winter break, I have been gaining weight and want to build myself a perfect body." Chapter 144. The second half of the race begins. Dennis walks up the horse. 2016, February 2nd. In the training ground of the Paderborn Training Center, head coach Gerald stood opposite a group of players and began to introduce the new players introduced during the winter window to the players who had returned from vacation during this winter window. Paderborn does not have any extra transfer budget, but it does not mean that this team will not have any personnel changes during the winter window. Among them, the one with the largest transfer amount is Munich 1860 Football Club of the German Second League, which has taken a fancy to defensive midfielder who originally started in Paderborn, but because of the addition of Su Feng, Gerald formulated the lineup based on him and chose 2 central midfielders. While only retaining one midfielder in the midfield as the second midfielder, he barely got many playing opportunities in the first half of the season. Therefore, after Munich 1860 offered an olive branch, the player did not hesitate to choose another new team to compete for playing opportunities. At the same time, Gerald also used the funds to buy a third-team center-back player with good performance from the Bundesliga club Hamburg as Hunemir's replacement. Hunemir's injury will take about 3 months, but so far, his injury has almost recovered. But in football, if you endure the injury and continue to play, it will only make your injury more serious. In this case, it is impossible for Gerald to let Hunemir play without receiving a full recovery report from the team's medical room. Moreover, even if Hunemir starts to return to the team after receiving the news, he will not immediately continue to start and play the entire game, but will slowly move from the bench to the starting lineup. During this period, Hunemir will be delayed for about 4 or 5 league games, and it is very important for someone to step up after the new players and the old players got to know each other. Gerald began to give instructions for today's training tasks. Soon, the Paderborn players once again joined in the intense training. Time flew by, and soon it was February 7th. The second half of the Bundesliga league match. On this day, Paderborn will face their loser in the first half, Sandhausen. This day is the Chinese New Year's Eve holiday. Zunjun and Huey, special guests of QQ.com, did not choose to take a holiday. Instead, they worked overtime together on this day and continued to broadcast Su Feng's game for those Chinese fans and friends. This day is simply a paradise on earth. The wife who hindered him from watching football was all because New Year's Eve was spent playing mahjong or chatting with friends. Finally, he was able to bring delicious snacks and beer, sit in front of the TV and enjoy the nearly 2 hours happily. However, in this game, there is a big gap in strength between the two sides. Facing the underdog Sandhausen, as long as there is no upset, Sandhausen will definitely be pushed flat by Paderborn. The result is also true. Paderborn defeated Sandhausen 3-0 at a Benteler Arena at home, giving the second half of the new year a good start to the season. Su Feng scored twice in this game and was in hot form again at the same time. On this day, Su Feng's old club Freiburg's first game of the second half also started today. Just a week before this game, Freiburg club announced its head coach candidate for the second half on its official website. Dennis, the former Freiburg U17 head coach, is temporarily appointed as the head coach of Freiburg's first team. According to Football Forum, Freiburg's management originally planned to hire a capable head coach from the other 5 major leagues to help the team stabilize in the Bundesliga after leading the team to the Bundesliga, but currently, there are no capable head coaches on the market, only some who have been fired miserably. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. No way, Freiburg worked hard throughout the winter window and failed to find a suitable head coach. Faced with this situation, it is impossible for Freiburg's senior management to transfer Strachey back to his post and take over again, but the position of first-team head coach cannot remain vacant. As the second half of the league is about to begin, in desperation, the Freiburg management decided to promote Dennis, the head coach who had recently performed well in the youth league, to the head coach of the first team. He was appointed to lead the team in the crisis. It should be said that Feng was very impressed with Dennis as the head coach. After all, he was the first head coach to accept him after he was fired by Mönchengladbach. After Dennis took office, he actively rectified the situation in the locker room, and Freiburg had almost no signings during the winter window. He promoted several outstanding players from Freiburg's U17 team to the first team. This can be regarded as a shortcut for Dennis to give to the children he trained among them. Of course, there are Elder and Hardy. The two of them also joined the Freiburg first team as promised and competed for the team. According to the current situation in Freiburg, Dennis continued to implement the offensive style. In the first round of the second half of the game, it can be said to be very successful against Heidenheim 4-2 victory. This also makes Dennis's prestige among Freiburg club even better. Feng, who knew the news, began to look forward to what kind of exciting game would unfold after the collision with Freiburg in the second half. At the same time, will Alder and Hardy, the original good brothers, come on as substitutes in this game? Feng didn't know, but he was extremely looking forward to the battle with Freiburg. Then, on February 13th and February 21st respectively, Paderborn will face Kaiserslautern and Bielefeld, two teams currently ranked in the middle of the league, facing Paderborn. It can be said that the probability of victory for both teams is not very high, but in football, in addition to the hard power of the players, the tactical configuration of the head coach often also plays a decisive role. After defeating Kaiserslautern 2-1 in the 20th round, Paderborn suffered an upset against Bielefeld. This team, which was not favored by everyone before the game, actually put up a 5-4-1 formation that surprised everyone during the game. In the second half, head coach Bielefeld implemented the ultimate defensive strategy for the team's players, focusing on defensive counterattacks and trying not to allow the opponent to score without scoring. In this season, Bielefeld still has a chance to reach the first division. So they need to go all out in every game, even if they take away 1 point in the end. In this game, Paderborn and Bielefeld shook hands and the two sides fought to a 1-1 draw. Feng did not score a goal himself in this game, but only provided an assist for Pulikovic. This confused Sagrik, who was still sitting on the bench. Why did Pulikovic change from a cake feeder to a cake eater after he was reduced to a substitute? He sent more assists to Feng than Pulikovic passed. It seems that in the future, we must have a better relationship with Feng. Unknowingly, there was a change in the way Sagrik looked at Feng, and he always felt a little ambiguous. Chapter 145. Contest. The strong Feng. Time flies by and it's the end of February. Paderborn will have another game in February at home against Karlsruhe, which is currently 5th in the Bundesliga 2. For this team, Paderborn failed to defeat him in the first half of the season. You can imagine how strong this team's hard power is. February 27th, Paderborn's home stadium Benteler Arena. Paderborn hosts Karlsruhe as scheduled. It had just rained in the city of Paderborn this morning, and the weather was foggy in the afternoon, which had an impact on the progress and viewing of the game. But this will not cause fans and friends who love Paderborn to come to the Benteler Arena to cheer following the referee's whistle. Karlsruhe took the lead in this game. China's Spring Festival holiday is almost over. In the live broadcast room of Kinkyu.com, the familiar Zhang Jun and Yi Wei are still accompanying the fans who support Feng in the live broadcast room. Okay, audience friends, the 23rd round of the Bundesliga league is about to begin. Zhang Jun's hoarse voice rang out from the live broadcast room commentary seat, and he began to introduce the current situation of the league to the Chinese fans who entered the live broadcast room. Paderborn is temporarily ranked second in the Bundesliga 2 standings, only 1 point behind the previous place Red Bull Leipzig. However, Paderborn's captain Hunemeyer has not yet returned from recovery. It can be said that this period is their most difficult moment, but the opponents are all teams ranked in the middle of the Bundesliga league, so it is difficult to win easily. Yi Wei nodded at the side and explained to the audience in the live broadcast room, there is only 1 point difference. I think it won't be long before Hunemeyer returns from recovery. Paderborn will be able to regroup and continue to fight for the Bundesliga championship. In the live broadcast room of Kinkyu.com, the live broadcast of the Bundesliga league, because it was Feng's match, the number of spectators soared rapidly in the blink of an eye, and soon the number of spectators reached more than 8 million. This is proof that Su Feng's popularity in China has soared. I've been waiting for a long time, and finally there is another match against Su Feng. Owen Paderborn has not been in good form recently. I really miss those days when Hünemeyer was there to back the team up. It's okay, we have to believe it. Su Feng, he can definitely score 2 goals in this game. Unexpectedly, one day a Chinese player will be able to stand at the top of the German second division scorer list. Brothers, how did you place your bet on this game? Why? The odds of Paderborn are up again at the opening of the betting? Paderborn is going to lose this game, right? Are you kidding me? How many games have you seen Paderborn lose now? The most is a draw. Su Feng, let's celebrate your senior year, come on. The Chinese fans in the live broadcast room were also excitedly cheering for Su Feng, hoping to see Chinese players leading the Paderborn won a game at the same time. These fans are not stingy with their gifts at all. Gifts to cheer for Su Feng are constantly floating on the screen of the live broadcast room. These gifts alone can bring a huge amount of income to the website. It is for these reasons that those who knew the game would not hesitate to buy the broadcast rights for the Deutsche Cup. Even if Paderborn only played one game later, his eyes returned to the court again. At this moment, the broadcast camera has been focused on the players' tunnel, and the players from both sides are holding the little ball boy's hand and walking out one after another. As long as there is a picture of Su Feng appearing in the live broadcast room of Kinkyu.com, a wave of barrage praise will be set off soon. The game officially started. The new players purchased by Paderborn during the winter window also successfully entered the starting lineup in this game, and head coach Gerald also continued to work on the 5-back formation in this game. Karlsruhe took the lead and quickly organized an attack. The army pressed forward and rushed towards Paderborn's backcourt. Bang bang bang. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. Karlsruhe's players had obviously studied Paderborn's recent style of play during the possession phase. They did not rush forward like other teams and directly faced Paderborn. De Bohn's goal was bombarded instead. He passed the ball slowly near the midfield and did not rush to attack. The head coach of Karlsruhe told them before the game that this game is very important to the team. Not only will it affect Paderborn's ranking first, but it will also allow Karlsruhe to take a further step. As long as Karlsruhe stabilizes its form and continues to exert its strength in the next few games, it is very likely that at the end of the season, it will get a place to advance to the Bundesliga playoffs. In the past few games, they have defeated the teams at the bottom of the Bundesliga second division. The following games are more difficult to chew, and Paderborn is the first step that needs to be taken. Bang! In the 31st minute of the game, after several attempts, Karlsruhe's midfielder found an excellent opportunity. He sent a straight kick towards Paderborn's rib area. Paderborn is indeed in a 5-back formation, but it does not mean that it is impregnable. At this time, the football is directly pushed from the left to the right, which can be said to disrupt the deployment of Paderborn's entire defense line. After receiving the ball, Karlsruhe's winger rushed forward with the ball, stopped and rushed into Paderborn's penalty area with the ball, but Paderborn's numerical advantage was indeed obvious. When entering the penalty area, Karlsruhe's winger had no chance to shoot. He backheels the ball back to the center, inverted triangle. The Karlsruhe center who followed up kicked the ball without stopping and penetrated Paderborn's goal. Hey, the ball went in, 1-0. Karlsruhe took the lead inside the Benteler Arena. Then, Karlsruhe's players struck while the iron was hot and frequently organized attacks. Paderborn's goalkeeper was able to save once, twice, but could not withstand too many attacks. Finally, at the end of the first half, the score was fixed at a tragic 2-0, after the start of the second half. When everyone already thought that Paderborn would get a clean sheet, Su Feng stood up again. After Paderborn stole the football in the backcourt, he launched a quick counter-attack and sent the ball directly towards Su Feng in the front court with a long pass, but the ball was not passed very well. The ball was too fast. It is very difficult to stop this ball well, but Su Feng was not afraid. He quickly rushed over, preparing to fight for the top. The players from Karlsruhe came up at this time. Their task was much simpler than that of Su Feng. They only needed to hinder Su Feng. Hey, Su Feng and several others jumped up at the same time and started fighting for the top, but after seeing Su Feng take off, Karlsruhe's two defensive players suddenly felt a sense of fear. So strong. One of the players had guarded Su Feng during the last match between Paderborn and Karlsruhe. At that time, Su Feng didn't feel so strong to him. How come it had only been so long before Su Feng's aura was so scary? The somewhat worried Karlsruhe defender stopped thinking about it, used all his strength, and crashed into Su Feng's body. Chapter 146. Leading 2-0, a shocking match. Bang! A heavy sound of physical confrontation sounded. The Karlsruhe player's raised arm collided hard with Su Feng's shoulder. However, he did not feel the joy of victory in the confrontation. Instead, a huge force suddenly came from his body. He groaned and fell to the ground uncontrollably. What the hell? There was a hint of shock in the eyes of the Karlsruhe player on the surface. Apart from being taller than him, Su Feng is really not as good as this Karlsruhe defensive player. The strength looks really bad, but why can it be so hit? He couldn't understand that in just a few months, Su Feng's ability to fight was already so good. At the moment when the Karlsruhe defender was thinking, Su Feng successfully fought for the top and grabbed the long pass, but the quality of this ball was very poor after all. Su Feng could not directly push the ball to the forward position, and then directly follow up and start with the ball. Therefore, he could only slightly control the second landing point of the football, stop the ball with his chest, and then continue to break through with the ball. But in just a few seconds, Karlsruhe's other defensive players also withdrew. Facing many Karlsruhe defensive players, there was no trace of fear on Su Feng's face, and instead there was a faint smile on his calm face. More than fear, he had a heavy responsibility on his shoulders. He temporarily wears Paderborn's captain's armband and has to shoulder Paderborn's honor in the Benteler Arena, Paderborn's home stadium, as the captain of the team. He couldn't accept it and was kept clean by other teams. Su Feng started dribbling the ball at high speed and headed towards Karlsruhe's penalty area. He was like a swimming dragon, controlling the football with both feet as he shuttled through the crowd. Marseille's roundabout, awesome rainbow actions that shocked the fans in the audience appeared frequently. Su Feng lived up to expectations. After bringing the ball into the penalty area, he cut inside, adjusted his steps, and volleyed the ball hard on the football. The football was like an arrow off the string, blasting out quickly and hitting Karlsruhe's goal. Hey, the ball went in. Su Feng once again performed a difficult one-stop goal to help Paderborn regain a point, and the score between the two sides reached 2-1. The coaching area on the sidelines. The head coach of Karlsruhe was stunned at the moment, looking at Su Feng celebrating in the corner area of the stadium, a little dazed. To be honest, every team has experienced half of the Bundesliga league, and they probably know what level they are at. Paderborn's number 23 goal scoring machine is known to everyone in the Bundesliga too, but most people know his shortcomings. If he can't prevent it, he will get into physical collisions and tactical fouls. But what's going on today? A tall defender weighing 80 kilograms cannot hit a forward. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. The coach of Karlsruhe could not continue to think too much. The cheers of the Paderborn fans on the sidelines had already pulled him towards reality. He must make adjustments quickly to prevent Paderborn from making another long pass and moving the football in a wide range, surprising Karlsruhe. If next time, the quality of the long pass of this passing player is slightly higher, then the following things will not happen. Fortunately, the head coach of Karlsruhe is very good at temporarily adjusting the formation. He will not be like some stubborn head coaches who think that their formations are ideal, and do not make changes according to the situation on the field, and use several formations blindly. Soon, he gave the latest instructions to the Karlsruhe players, causing all Karlsruhe players to start to retreat and defend. Only two forwards were left to score goals and press in the midfield, which had a little impact on Paderborn's side kicks. This timely change made Paderborn's offense feel like it was stuck in a swamp. They have been investing a lot of troops in the attack, but they feel like they are not doing enough. Understand the Ball Network live room. When many Chinese fans began to curse the coach of Karlsruhe for his despicable tactics, Zhang Jun stood up in time and began to influence the thoughts of the fans in the live broadcast room. Dear viewers, we cannot condemn the coach of Karlsruhe for what he did. This is one of the most common tactics in football. When leading, it may be true to perform this kind of huddle defense. It will have a certain impact on the fans' enjoyment, but this method is indeed easy to use. He Wei also nodded, with a slightly worried look in his eyes. The defensive strategy of the Karlsruhe coach is very successful, but we might as well set our sights on Su Feng to see if he can break the deadlock in this game. This Chinese striker has played in the Bundesliga this season. The second half of the league showed us a lot of new things. We have to admit that he has stood on the shoulders of many senior Chinese players in Europe, and has stood at a height that we Chinese players have never stood before. But football is a belief and a heritage. I believe that under the leadership of Su Feng, a talented star, China's football will flourish. Now, please let go of all the obsessions in your hearts and put your hopes aside. Put your trust in Su Feng, follow him, and reverse the deadlock on the field. With the correct guidance of the two guests in the live broadcast room, the barrage in the live broadcast room finally stopped criticizing Karlsruhe's head coach. Instead, they were all words of encouragement for Su Feng. In this way, The competition on Benteler Arena is still going on fiercely. The 88th minute of the game, the stalemate situation made Paderborn coach Gerald wave his hand and directly press the army, trying to get a dignified point at his home court in the last few minutes. At this moment, on the court, Vidra cooperated with another midfielder with the ball in the midfield, frequently performed 1-2s, and brought a ball to the outside of the penalty area. Bang! After taking the ball a few steps outside the penalty area, Vidra handed the ball to Su Feng in front facing the fierce-looking Karlsruhe defender. Su Feng was not timid after receiving the ball and continued to advance with the ball. "Stop him, don't let him pass." Karlsruhe's defense suddenly felt like a frightened bird. They were all on guard against Su Feng, fearing that he would kick through their own goal from a long distance and equalize the score in a few seconds. Two Karlsruhe defensive players appeared in front of Su Feng, and behind these two, there was another Karlsruhe defensive player to hold him back. They must be trying to block Su Feng and keep football out. Chapter 147. Draw. Hunemeyer returns. Su Feng raised his head and took a look at the situation on the field. After briefly confirming the positions of his other teammates, Su Feng showed fierceness in his eyes and approached the two defensive players in front of him on his bicycle. Karlsruhe's defensive players took advantage of their personnel, but they were not really afraid of Su Feng. What they didn't understand was why Su Feng's eyes showed such incomprehensible confidence. Subsequently, a Karlsruhe defensive player found the right moment and took a shot directly, preparing to clear the football, but it was his move that allowed Su Feng to seize the opportunity, change direction quickly, and break through from his side into the penalty area. The other two defensive players immediately stepped aside to prepare for Su Feng's sudden cold arrow, but they guessed what Su Feng was thinking wrong. He never thought about scoring directly. Bang! When the football was about to reach the bottom line, Su Feng immediately made a cross from the bottom. The football was heading towards the goal quickly, but it was not a high ball and the height was not very high. Purlikovic, who was waiting for an opportunity in the penalty area, was already ready to go. He rushed to the front point, blocked the Karlsruhe defender with his body, and pushed the football forward with the arch of his foot. Hey! The football quickly flew into the net at such a close distance. Karlsruhe's goalkeeper was unable to make any effective save. Purlikovic ran excitedly in the direction of Su Feng. He opened his hands and embraced Su Feng enthusiastically in celebration. His goal this time was still an assist from Su Feng. The feeling of scoring a goal is so great. Paderborn. Paderborn. The entire Benteler Arena burst into the suppressed cheers of Paderborn fans for a long time in this home game. Karlsruhe scored 2 goals in the first half. To be honest, it had a great impact on the mentality of the players and fans. If it weren't for the strong cohesion of Paderborn fans and their unparalleled trust in the 11 players on the field, they might have left the field in despair 10 minutes ago, but it was because of their trust in the Paderborn players that they saw this super cool scene at the end of the game. Among all games, there is nothing more exciting than chasing 2 goals in a row against the wind. The ball is in. Zongen's hoarse voice was full of excitement. The familiar midfielder and Su Feng's connection, and the subsequent processing was also very perfect, which is enough to see that the Paderborn players cooperate very well. Tacit understanding. With such hard-working players and such enthusiastic fans, no one wants to lose 3 points to their opponents at their home court. Hiwei also clapped his hands excitedly, with an unforgettable look in his eyes. A few dozen minutes ago, Paderborn was still 2 goals behind. At that time, the two guests in the almost knowing net live broadcast room were not very optimistic about Su Feng. The only reason why I can continue to support Su Feng is because Su Feng is a Chinese player, but now, a miracle happened again. No one expected that Su Feng, the Chinese striker, could really chase 2 points in the second half. Of course, Paderborn's defense also contributed to this. At least in the second half, they were not penetrated by Karlsruhe. In the live broadcast room of Kinkyu.com. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. One barrage after another boasting about Su Feng started to appear. This cooperation is so wonderful. Paderborn is awesome. Plikovic is also great at grabbing points. Su Feng is awesome. What a Chinese son. If our national team has Paderborn, how can the players from Born with such a daring and fighting spirit lose the game? Please don't compare the Chinese sons with the national team. Thank you. On the court, Karlsruhe is obviously overwhelmed by this goal. Su Feng's cross was stunned. To be honest, they were all afraid of Su Feng's kick, because this guy really couldn't guard him, but the result was that Su Feng made a pass from the bottom and other Paderborn players grabbed the ball and scored. It's like, I guessed your best trick and took precautions in advance. but you didn't follow martial ethics and let others sneak up on you. The head coach of Karlsruhe is even more furious and started swearing in the coaching area. What insult to Paderborn player Feng, insulting Karlsruhe's defensive players, being negligent in front of the goal, and not being able to grab points like this later. The more he cursed, the angrier he became. And he actually became dissatisfied with several of the referee's decisions just now. This reached the ears of the fourth official and was reported directly to the referee on duty, causing the Karlsruhe head coach to receive a red card. He was sent directly to the spectator seats. Soon, the referee on duty blew the whistle to end the game. This game, which Paderborn was thought to be in danger, was miraculously tied. Paderborn's ability to draw consecutive draws during this period of extremely poor form is already the best gain in Karlsruhe. A team that was extremely eager to win, could only take away a pitiful point at the Benteler Arena. After this game, Paderborn's next Bundesliga 24-round match will be played on March 2nd. They will face Fürth away from home. Fürth is also currently in the middle of the Bundesliga too. In the first half of the game, it drew with Paderborn. Originally this was another difficult game, but just a few days before the game was about to start, the club's team doctor brought good news to head coach Gerard Hunemeyer has recovered from his injury and may be back in the game. This news undoubtedly sent the entire Paderborn Football Club into a state of carnival. Paderborn's strength can be said to be difficult to rival in the Bundesliga too. The only game they lost was because of their incomplete lineup, against the league's first-place Red Bull Leipzig. But now, after the old captain Hunemeyer returns to the team, Paderborn will no longer have to play against mid-range players and only want to draw with their current strength. They can compete for the Bundesliga championship. Time flies by and March 2nd comes soon. The 24th round of the Bundesliga 2 started at the Fürth Sports Park because the pre-match roster for this game was announced. The old captain Hunemeyer once again entered the substitute list after 3 months. Anyone who is not a fool knows what this news means, that is, Paderborn's captain Hunemeyer will return to the game. Chapter 148. Small Talk, Nightclub Little Ball King, March 2nd, in the Ronhof Sports Park. The 24th round of the Bundesliga 2 came as promised. Paderborn fans crowded into the stadium with enthusiasm, looking forward to seeing the first game after the return of the old captain Hunemeyer. This makes it difficult to find a seat in the Ronhof Sports Park, which already has few seats. In order to watch the game, many Paderborn fans bought scalper tickets at high prices and sat in the Fürth fans' seats, pretending to be rival fans. Paderborn, under the enthusiastic cheers of Paderborn fans and friends, Paderborn players were particularly excited in this game against Fürth and played better before the end of the first half. Paderborn already led 2-0. In the 20th minute, Feng scored with a long shot, and in the 36th minute, Purlikovic scored a complimentary shot in front of the goal. This great situation may be a guarantee from the Paderborn players to head coach Gerald. After all, if the team falls behind, he will definitely not dare to let Hunemeyer come on easily. Now, Paderborn has a big lead. Of course, Captain Hunemeyer can come on the stage to slowly find the rhythm of the game and regain the original game state. Even if Felt scores a goal, nothing will happen. The difference is more than 2 points, so Gerald will not feel any burden. At the beginning of the second half, as expected, Gerald directly replaced Hunemeyer on the field. Hunemeyer. There were not many Paderborn fans, but they still shouted Hunemeyer's name enthusiastically and fiercely. This is the greatest respect given to him by the fans. Hunemeyer is obviously still a little uncomfortable with returning to the court, but standing on the court, you can still see the desire for victory in his eyes. Soon, the second half of the game began. In order to allow Captain Hunemeyer to adapt to the rhythm of the game, the Paderborn players were not as ferocious as the first half and became a little gentler and slower in the second half. It is precisely because of this that Hunemeyer had an easy time returning for the first time. Of course, this has something to do with the opponent in this game. Fürth is not a strong team. Hunemeyer's appearance in this environment can only be regarded as the icing on the cake. Even without Hunemeyer, Paderborn has a high probability of winning this game. However, Hunemeyer's return is definitely a good thing. If they encounter other strong teams in the future, Paderborn will also be able to fight. They will be able to fight for the Bundesliga championship with all their strength. In the end, the referee on duty blew the whistle to end the game. In this game, Fürth at home lost to Paderborn 1-3. In the second half, Feng once again contributed a shot and scored twice, and was elected the best player of the game. After this game, Paderborn is getting closer and closer to its goal of winning the Bundesliga championship this season. Many German news media have already begun to warm up the contest between Paderborn and the other two favorite teams. The two teams at that time were Red Bull Leipzig, Currently ranked first in the Bundesliga 2, and Freiburg, third. RB Leipzig and Freiburg are both in hot form recently. Except for upsets against strong teams, they rarely lose points against weak teams. Therefore, the points gap between Paderborn and these two teams is very tight. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. With Paderborn's recent hot form, Paderborn Football Club launched a fan meeting event at the training center. This is to help build a close relationship between players and fans. In this event, almost all Paderborn first-team players will participate and take photos and sign autographs for fans and friends at the event. As a result, the square where the Paderborn training center held the event that day was crowded with people, and the bustling fans surrounded Paderborn players. And in the middle, Feng was of course the most tired as the current star of the Paderborn team. Almost half of the people who came to participate in this event came because of Feng. This resulted in Feng starting from the morning activities until the end of the activities at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Apart from the necessary meals and toilet breaks, Feng did not take much rest. However, Feng also liked this feeling and did not feel a little tired. Water can carry a boat, but it can also capsize it, and the same goes for stars. If fans like you, that is your honor. It is your wonderful performance on the field that can give them a positive inspiration in their lives. Therefore, when you are a football star, you don't need to put on your high airs. Instead, get closer to the fans and agree to some of the fans' photo requests. Only then will your fans and friends support you even more. Moreover, among the fans who came to Feng for autographs and photos today, more than half were girls. Without him, these people are all here for Feng. With his status as a football star and his handsome Chinese face, he is definitely very strong in terms of killing women. Among them were many local female internet celebrities with outstanding looks, all of whom were ogling Feng. Some even took advantage of taking pictures with Feng to secretly give Feng the small note in his hand and whisper in his ear, "Tomorrow night, Paderborn Plaza Hotel, 303, I'll wait for you." After saying that, the beautiful internet celebrity waved reluctantly and left Feng. On the other hand, always refused invitations from these unfamiliar female internet celebrities. But if you want to refuse a person, it's okay. As the number of people increases, there are always some journalists with ulterior motives secretly exposing these things. When the fan meeting in Paderborn ended that day, as expected, there was another wave of excitement in the football forum. Moreover, this wave also cleverly connected Feng's recent life with the original incident. Paderborn's Chinese genius star is so imprudent in his private life, nightclubs, beauties. A day in the life of German second division genius Feng actually looks like this. The technology is so strong that a nightclub can also create a world champion. These media reports can't help but give people who don't know Feng some new views on him. After all, in most people's understanding, only players who strictly discipline themselves can gradually advance in their football career. But why did Feng choose a different path from others? Even if they are different, why are they so much worse than others? Unconsciously, Feng has become a well-known figure among German football fans. He is not famous solely because of his ability, but because he is the king of small ball in nightclubs, which makes people talk about him after dinner. Chapter 149. Fighting Freiburg again, the coolness value exceeds 100. After the 24th round of the Bundesliga 2, the state of all Paderborn players can be said to have reached a new level. Although the team's performance has been steadily rising, the team's old captain was injured due to illness, which has always been a concern for many players. Now, Mönchengladbach is back on the court, and in the last game against Freiburg, he came on as a substitute in the second half and performed very well. After the game, Paderborn head coach Gerald also assured him that he would gradually return to the starting lineup in subsequent games. Of course, the premise is that Mönchengladbach cannot have any obvious injury problems in recent games soon. The German Bundesliga games came one after another. In March, on the 25th round, Paderborn faced the German second division team St. Pauli at home because of the home field advantage. And Gerald directly made substitutions in the middle of the first half of this game, rotating Mönchengladbach and Sagrick together. When these two people appear together, they can change Paderborn's original defensive 5-back formation into a 4-back and 3-forward formation that is most suitable for Feng. Under such changes, Paderborn became more courageous and defeated St. Pauli 3-1 at the Benteler Arena at home. Feng contributed 1 goal and 1 assist. Then, in mid-March, Paderborn played away to Duisburg in the 26th round. Facing this relegation team, Paderborn still had no pressure and easily won 4-1. Feng once again scored a hat trick. So far, the 26 rounds of the Bundesliga 2 have ended. Paderborn has won 16, drawn 7 and lost 3 times, totaling 55 points. There is still only a 2-point gap with the leading Red Bull Leipzig, but these 2 points are not what Paderborn coach Gerald is worried about at all. Some time ago, why was Paderborn kept suppressed by Red Bull Leipzig? It's just because Paderborn's defense has had a big problem recently, which makes it impossible to win against many teams in the middle of the Bundesliga. But now, this is no longer the case. The complete Paderborn really has almost no opponents in today's Bundesliga 2, soon. The 27th and 28th rounds of the Bundesliga 2 in March will soon arrive. The opponents in these 2 games were Braunschweig and Union Berlin respectively. Both teams are currently ranked in the middle of the Bundesliga. However, Union Berlin is obviously a few points stronger than Eintracht Braunschweig. They are currently ranked 6th in the league, only a few points behind Bochum and St. Pauli. In other words, if Union Berlin can still seize the opportunity in the next few games, then it can definitely compete for the opportunity to advance to the Bundesliga. However, by coincidence, they bump into Paderborn, who is in the best condition at this time. Otherwise, they might have been able to take away 3 games from Paderborn. It can only be said that Union Berlin is not very lucky in the end. Braunschweig and Union Berlin both lost to Paderborn without a doubt in these 2 games. Feng continued to be in hot form, scoring 2 goals and 1 goal respectively. As of now, Feng has scored a total of 40 goals this season. If nothing unexpected happens, he has already been able to win the Bundesliga second division top scorer this season ahead of schedule, because almost every top scorer in the Bundesliga 2 can rarely score more than 30 goals in a single season. But judging from Feng's current state, there is a high possibility that he will break through 50 goals this season. What is this concept? He will have every chance to set the record as the top scorer in the Bundesliga 2. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. After this game is over on April 9th, the focus of the Bundesliga 2 will be ushered in. Paderborn plays away at the Black Forest Stadium to face Freiburg. The match between Paderborn and Freiburg will bring a lot of talk in the Bundesliga 2, because speaking of it, these 2 teams really have a lot of bad blood this season. Originally, the relationship between the 2 clubs Paderborn and Freiburg was quite good, but this year, Freiburg loaned Feng to Paderborn. This led to a series of problems later. In addition, Paderborn is currently in 2nd place in the Bundesliga 2 standings, while Freiburg is temporarily in 3rd place. If Paderborn wants to win the Bundesliga title, they don't need to look at RB Leipzig, so maintaining a winning streak and defeating Freiburg is a must choice. But will it really be easy to beat Freiburg? Freiburg was originally the favorite to win the championship this season, but due to the fact that Feng was sold to Paderborn for 2 million, the original head coach Stretch was demoted to assistant coach. Feng's old coach, former Freiburg U17 head coach Dennis, took over. Originally, Dennis, who is not favored by Freiburg fans, has turned the entire team into a strong team killer since taking office. In the first few games of the second half, Freiburg beat St. Pauli first, then Bochum, and in the last game they defeated Union Berlin. It can be said that Freiburg's overall strength has really improved a lot after Dennis took charge. Therefore, the next focus battle between Paderborn and Freiburg has attracted the attention of many fans who follow the Bundesliga 2. Among them, naturally, there are many Chinese fans in China who support Feng. April 8th, evening the next day was the match between Paderborn and Freiburg. At this moment, Feng, who had followed the news from the German Football Forum, was sitting on the sofa with a melancholy look on his face. His hands somewhat nowhere to rest. Just when head coach Gerald led the Paderborn players to watch and analyze Freiburg's recent games, Feng discovered something that made him feel excited. That is, Alger, a good friend who was originally going to join the Freiburg first team and make great achievements with him, actually made his debut in the Bundesliga in the first few games. Moreover, after his debut, Alger also received many playing opportunities given by Dennis. In other words, in the next game between Paderborn and Freiburg, Feng has a high probability of playing against Alger. Meanwhile, Paderborn will look to follow Freiburg's lead if they want to win the Bundesliga title. In addition, facing the now powerful Freiburg, it will not be particularly easy to win easily. After all, Freiburg is also the favorite team to win the championship. In the last match, under the leadership of Stretch, Feng helped Paderborn score a winning goal at the last minute. Otherwise, Paderborn will lose the last match. But things are different now. Feng's skills have improved a lot this season. Moreover, there is also some very exciting news, that is, his chick value points have exceeded 100 points. Chapter 150. Golden Bombers, another battle at the Black Forest Stadium. As of now, Feng's Ziosa system has accumulated 102 points of Ziosa points. Despite the fact that these points are not many, Su Feng earned them after working hard for nearly a season. These points are enough for Su Feng to go to the system wall for a 5-game draw. Moreover, according to the rules described by the system itself, 5 consecutive draws will definitely explode the Black Star skill. This means that in addition to Robin van Persie's volley, Su Feng will once again acquire a black quality star skill. Right now, Paderborn will face Freiburg at the Black Forest Stadium, ushering in a battle for the top 3 in the Bundesliga 2. Whoever can win will have an advantage in the final rounds of the Bundesliga. Paderborn's goal this season is to win the Bundesliga championship. So naturally they need to go all out in this game. All players tried their best to fight on the field and win for the team, but to be honest, judging from the current state of Freiburg and Paderborn, it's really hard to say which one is stronger, but Paderborn cannot afford to lose if it wants to win. Faced with this situation, Su Feng now has a better choice, that is, use the system cool points to draw a lottery, and after obtaining the Black Star skills, continue to help Paderborn fight and defeat Freiburg. This season, Su Feng has been able to score so many goals largely because of Robin van Persie's volleys. As long as the height of the football is appropriate and you can volley it with your feet, the ball will always fly into the opponent's goal in the name of the fairy ball. This way of scoring is really the best response to Van Persie's volley. Thoughts flashed by. Su Feng calmly sat on the sofa and brought up the picture of the system lottery in his mind. Before the last time he drew a miracle, he always felt that he was a non-chief, but the situation last time made Su Feng work very hard to correct his position and put him in the position of Emperor Huo. But what happened in daily life later emphasized to Su Feng again and again, the single draw miracle was just an accident. If you think you are the European emperor, just drawing a miracle has used up all your luck. After all, what could make you more non-chief than getting caught driving without a license for the first time? Start 5 consecutive strokes. After taking a breath and adjusting his mentality, Su Feng calmly gave the order in his heart. Regardless of whether he is European or not this time, at least there must be a black star with the guaranteed skills. I just pray that he can use this black star skill. If it is a star skill that defends the star, he will be really stunning. 5 consecutive drawings of the cool and worthy star skills were successfully drawn. System rewards are being drawn. Host, please wait. Suddenly, a black, gold, and white football outline flashed in Su Feng's mind. However, Su Feng could clearly feel that this time was different from the previous times. The number of times black football appears in my mind has obviously increased. As the football flashed by slower and slower, a black football suddenly appeared in the middle of my mind. This is the 5-draw guarantee, right? Before Su Feng could finish thinking, the system prompt sounded ding. Congratulations to the host for successful extraction. Get the Black Star skill Klinsmann's Golden Bomber. Klinsmann. Su Feng was shocked. He was naturally very familiar with this world-class striker. Read more novels by visiting our website Night Novels. As a player, Klinsmann, a German forward, once played for Bayern Munich and was one of Bayern's Troika that year. He is known for his excellent speed, agility and flexibility, and is affectionately called the Golden Bomber by fans for his shocking headers. But to be honest, although Klinsmann's Golden Bomber header is very fierce, it is not Su Feng's best choice at the moment. With the support of Robin van Persie's mid-air volleys, Su Feng's current ability to stay in the air and grab points in front of goal has surpassed most players in the 5 major leagues with abilities in these areas. As long as the team does not underestimate you, your scoring efficiency will be very high at present. Su Feng's volley and the Golden Bomber's header, 2 top star skills, should have no problem defeating Freiburg. Right afterwards, the system continued to display Su Feng's remaining 4 junk star skills. Sure enough, without the guaranteed plan, Su Feng was still a non-Emirati, with 4 lottery opportunities, all of which were the most rubbish white star skills. Maybe this is the same as how rubbish games defraud people of Krypton. A few years later, the next day our eyes returned to Germany, to the city of Freiburg in Baden-Württemberg. The Paderborn Football Club bus was walking slowly on the streets of Freiburg city after going around and around. Su Feng returned to the city again. However, this time his identity has changed and he has become a player who came to Freiburg for an away challenge. Su Feng lay on the window of the bus, looking at the fans wearing Freiburg jerseys on the street, always feeling that things are different. He doesn't know if Strachey had not loaned himself to Paderborn on a buyout basis, whether he would have been promoted to the first team like his good friend Alger. Ungrateful Paderborn people, get out of Freiburg. You are not welcome here. Go to hell. On the roadside, the extreme Freiburg fans recognized Paderborn. De Boeren Football Club bus. They all started shouting curses at the Paderborn players. In the minds of these extreme fans, it is not all Strachey's responsibility that Freiburg gave Su Feng €2 million to Paderborn. Among them, Paderborn also has an unshirkable responsibility for his ingratitude. After all, Freiburg loaned Feng to Paderborn because the relationship between the two teams was relatively good, but now, the relationship between the two teams has deteriorated, further causing fans of the two teams to meet as if they were mortal enemies. 2:40 p.m. in Freiburg's home stadium, the Black Forest Stadium. Black dominates the spectator seats. Countless Freiburg fans are looking forward to this game and new head coach Dennis to knock off the dark horse team Paderborn and win the Bundesliga championship this season. But sometimes, the more fans look forward to a game, the more painful the waiting time is for them. Freiburg must win. Before the game started, the tormented Freiburg fans started cheering before the game. This intimidating cry echoed throughout the Black Forest Stadium, but to be honest, it actually has no impact on the Paderborn players who are training on the field. How many big scenes has the dark horse team experienced this season? I once competed against the Bundesliga giants Dortmund at the Westfalenstadion. How could I still be intimidated by a Bundesliga second division team? Just as the fans of the two teams were shouting in the stadium, some players from the two teams had finished warming up and were already waiting on the court to go to the players' tunnel, and this naturally includes Feng, but his purpose doesn't seem to be so single. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.